Chapter 235. The explosive pills refined by Grandpa are truly terrifying. That brat was actually blasted into nothingness. Even his flying sword was blasted into a hornet's nest. Impressive, Tianyin praised. How would he know that this sword riddled with holes was the unknown sword of Mu Ling in Mu Yu's possession? It was also the sacred artifact of the Mu Yumeng clan. It was tattered in the first place, but it was a terrifying killing weapon. Shi Minghui smiled proudly and said, "Of course, Grandpa's explosive pills are not to be trifled with. Don't you have some in your hands, too?" Tianyin shrugged helplessly. Isn't it too wasteful to throw away dozens of such useful things at once? It's better to use more insurance to avoid complications. That brat is not simple. We've all suffered at his hands before, have you forgotten? Explosive pills were not any precious medicinal pills to them. For a sixth-tier alchemist like Shi Dengtian, Shi Minghui was completely not worried about the problem of wastage. But it was not as worthless as jelly beans. The higher the grade of the medicinal pill, the more precious the ingredients needed. Shi Minghui had brought 106-tier explosive pills, and the amount of spirit stones he had spent was already an astronomical figure. Only disciples of rich and powerful families like them could be so carefree. A sixth-tier explosive pill was something that could only be found by chance in the cultivation world. After all, it was a medicinal pill refined by a sixth-tier alchemist. Its value could be imagined. The power of a sixth-tier explosive pill was different from that of a fourth or fifth-tier explosive pill. It was of a higher grade, so the higher the cultivation level, the more powerful it would be when used. A sixth-tier alchemist would spend over 100,000 spirit stones to refine one, who would casually throw one out for fun for no reason. That was a money-burning item. Let's go. Tianyin saw that Mu Yu had been blasted into nothingness, and the anger in his heart was vented. He planned to leave this place, and did not even want to look at that broken sword in the air. But right at this moment, that broken sword hummed softly. Green light flashed on the sword, and a torrential amount of spirit chi rushed towards it. Like a whale sucking in the sky, the broken sword slowly rose and slashed down lightly. Although this action seemed weak, it was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on them, making it hard for Shi Minghui and Tianyin to breathe. They exchanged bewildered glances, and the heavenly star shield protected their bodies again. At the same time, a destructive sword chi swept down and slammed into the heavenly star shield. Immediately, spirit force shot out in all directions, and rocks flew everywhere. The two of them were surrounded by the heavenly star shield, so they weren't injured. However, the heavenly star shield was sent flying like a ball. Mu Yu's figure slowly appeared on the spot, Mu Ling's sword in his right hand. His face was as calm as water, and his clothes fluttered in the wind. He was completely unscathed, and not even a speck of dust could be seen on him. He didn't die. Tianyun's eyes widened. If it had been him, he would have been smashed to smithereens by now. However, Mu Yu was standing there like a god of war. "You are the ones who deserve to die." Mu Yu looked at the Mu Ling in his right hand. In the explosion just now, he had no room to dodge at all. Even if he had merged with the plants he brought with him would have been destroyed in an instant. There was no way he could have survived. However, Mu Ling's sword released a suction force that sucked him into the sword. Although the body of Mu Ling's sword was badly damaged, it didn't show any signs of collapsing from the powerful explosion. "What exactly are you?" Mu Yu muttered. He had never thought of merging with the Mu Ling sword before. Back then, the old tree leader had said that if the Mu Ling wanted to recover, it would need countless lives to heal the scars on the sword's body. For this reason, Mu Yu didn't like it very much. However, today he had thought that he would most likely die from the explosion of so many level 6 pills. He never thought that it would be this Mu Ling that saved him. When Mu Yu merged with the Mu Ling sword, a strange feeling surged into his mind. He saw a figure that was like a Rakshasa ghost god. Lives were as insignificant as ants in his hands, and he was casually harvesting lives. Over there, the sky was dark red, the moon was blood red, and the river was crimson red. Everything seemed to be for the sake of killing. He couldn't be more familiar with this scene. This was a dream that he often had, In the past, he had never been able to see who that person was. Even today, he didn't know who it was. However, today's dream was different because he saw the second half of the dream. He saw himself coming from afar with the Mu Ling's sword in his hand. The Mu Ling's sword was intact and exuded endless vitality. With a swing of the sword, thousands of lives came from the sword, flattening the earth and restoring life. The blood that soaked the earth flowed back into the host body. The slaughtered humans opened their eyes again, and everything began to recover. And the Mu Ling sword was already riddled with holes. Is this how the wounds on your body came about? Mu Yu's fingers stroked the holes on the Mu Ling's sword, and his heart was filled with emotion. He had always misunderstood the Mu Ling. He originally thought that killing countless lives could repair the Mu Ling, but he didn't know that the reason for the Mu Ling's current situation was because it had saved countless lives. The Mu Ling's sword trembled slightly, as if it was replying to Mu Yu. The information of thousands of plants was transmitted to Mu Yu's mind from the Mu Ling's sword. He realized that he knew all the plants in the world like the back of his hand. He could clearly describe the living habits and medicinal effects of each plant, and could also distinguish between fake herbs. He also knew the method to harvest each plant. The dead tree had once introduced him to all kinds of herbs, but the herbs he listed were only the tip of the iceberg. The information that the Mu Ling's sword gave to Mu Yu was the most complete. Mu Yu retracted his attention from the Mu Ling and looked at Shi Minghui indifferently. What other methods do you have to harm people? Why don't you use them all on me? Shi Minghui and Tianyin were extremely angry. They had thrown out dozens of level 6 explosive pills, but they still couldn't kill Mu Yu. They were really lucky. Don't be so smug. Even if you can't die from the explosion of the explosive pills, you can't do anything to us. Tianyin raised the heavenly star shield in front of him. He and Shi Minghui were both hedonistic young masters, and their cultivations couldn't keep up. If they really fought, they wouldn't be a match for Mu Yu at all. Fortunately, he had many defensive items on him, so he wasn't afraid. Is that so? Mu Yu rushed into the sky, and the shadow clone sword descended from the 9 heavens. It was majestic, and with a slash of the sword, it could destroy heaven and earth. The heavenly star shield in Tianyin's hand was already protecting the two of them. At the same time, the heavenly star spear revealed its tip. Shi Minghui flipped his wrist, and a few more explosive pills appeared. Little Commander now. Little Commander jumped out from behind Shi Minghui, and as his fluffy tail swayed, the spiritual qi around Shi Minghui suddenly became extremely unstable. He was shocked. However, he had already injected his own spiritual qi into the explosive pills in his hand. Very soon, his expression changed drastically. This was because he discovered that the spiritual qi around the explosive pills was beginning to compress them, and the strong herbs in the explosive pills were instantly stimulated. No! Shi Minghui shouted in horror. Unfortunately, it was too late. An earth-shattering explosion came from the heavenly star shield, and a dazzling light soared into the sky. The violent spiritual qi tore apart the heavenly star shield, and the two figures were sent flying by the powerful airflow, landing heavily on the snowy ground. The best way to break the tortoise shell is to attack from the inside. Mu Yu coldly landed on the ground. After all, the heavenly star shield was the holy artifact of the Stargate. With his ability, he still couldn't break the heavenly star shield. However, he had Little Commander, an expert in spiritual qi. The moment Shi Minghui injected his spiritual qi into the explosive pills would be directly activated, and the explosive pills would take effect on the two of them. How could they have expected that the explosive pills would hurt them? Shi Minghui's right hand was shattered by the explosive pills. When the explosive pills detonated in his palm, he didn't even have time to react before his right hand was destroyed. The power of a 6-tier explosive pill was very strong. He had taken an attack from an out-of-body stage head-on. He was already lucky that he didn't die. You, Shi Minghui was terrified. The pain in his arm almost made him faint. His face was covered in dust, and his clothes were tattered. He was in a very sorry state. He struggled to use his remaining left hand to take out the medicinal pills and stuffed them into his mouth. In fact, he still had a few Bone Emperor pills on him. That was a 6-tier medicinal pill that could withstand the siege of a spirit-severing stage cultivator without being injured. If he had taken it in time, he wouldn't have suffered such a serious injury. However, he didn't expect the explosive pills to explode. He couldn't react at all, and now he had the intention to retreat. He planned to crush the jade pendant and leave. This way, the Bone Emperor pill couldn't be used. Once he took the Bone Emperor pill, his body would become as strong as a spirit-severing stage cultivator. The teleportation array couldn't withstand the aura of a spirit-severing stage cultivator. The 9-chi soul-cleansing flower is in my hands. If you want it, come to me. Without the teleportation jade pendant, you can wait for death in the second layer of heaven. Shi Minghui raised his trembling left hand and showed the teleportation jade pendant in his hand. Want to leave? Mu Yu's shadow sword fell from the sky. Like a gust of wind, it accurately pierced through Shi Minghui's heart. Shi Minghui looked at the sword in his chest in disbelief. His eyes were wide open. He wanted to say something. He still had the Bone Emperor pill, but he didn't use it. His consciousness gradually blurred, and his vitality gradually faded from his body. However, at the last moment, he still crushed the teleportation jade pendant. A faint golden light instantly sucked his whole body into a crack and disappeared. The shadow sword seemed to be resisting the tyrannical suction. It didn't follow Shi Minghui's departure and was swept away by the teleportation array. Instead, it broke free from the suction. At the same time, Mu Ling appeared again. Before Shi Minghui disappeared, a gray airflow was sucked from his body into Mu Ling's body. A small hole on Mu Ling's body had already healed. I must make you pay the price. Tian Yun's heavenly star shield fell not far away. His entire body was charred black, and his right leg had been blasted apart. Even the intermittent grass was useless. Without a powerful medicinal pill, like the White Jade Injury Recovery Pill, it was impossible for him to recover. Tian Yun looked at Mu Yu with a face full of hatred. His eyes looked as if he wanted to swallow Mu Yu whole. Mu Yu's shadow sword aimed at Tian Yun again. However, Tian Yun's reaction was much faster than Shi Minghui's. Before the sword arrived, Tian Yun's palm had already squeezed down. A huge suction force came from his hand, and the teleportation jade pendant broke in half. Tian Yun was immediately swept away by the teleportation array and left the second layer of heaven. Mu Yu couldn't stop this. He could only watch the two of them leave. The teleportation jade pendant could teleport people very quickly. Unless he had the ability to instantly kill and stop them like Yingyu, there was no way he could snatch their teleportation jade pendants. Why did Shi Minghui crush the jade pendant before he died? How unlucky. Little Shuai returned to Mu Yu's side angrily. Originally, they thought that Shi Minghui had died, so they didn't have time to crush the jade pendant. This way, they could use Shi Minghui's jade pendant to leave the second layer of heaven. He should have killed Tian Yun as well. Mu Yu looked regretfully at the place where they had disappeared. He had wanted to kill the two of them and seize the teleportation jade pendant. Unfortunately, things didn't go as he wished. Tian Yun had escaped. When Tian Yun returned and told him, Shi Dingtian would definitely know that Shi Minghui had died at the hands of Mu Yu. Even if Mu Yu had the teleportation jade pendant, it would still bring him back to the Danding sect. The berserk Shi Dingtian would definitely wait there for Mu Yu to avenge his grandson with his own hands. Mu Yu didn't like killing people, but some people deserve to die. What about the 9-chi soul cleansing flower? If Shi Minghui took it back, wouldn't we not be able to get it? Little Shuai said. Chapter 236. Mount Luqing towered into the clouds. Originally, the peak was covered in snow all year round. Before people came, there was only a vast expanse of white snow and a huge amber stone with a 9-chi soul cleansing flower growing on it. However, at this moment, the peak was a mess. Black smoke filled the air, and blood and limbs were scattered on the snow. It was a ghastly sight. Mu Yu gently stroked Mu Ling's sword, and a strange feeling spread from the sword to his body. You're saying that the 9-chi soul cleansing flower in Shi Minghui's hand is a 9-yin flower and not the real one? Xiao Shuai asked in surprise. Yes, those two ignorant fellows really thought that they got the 9-chi soul cleansing flower. Mu Yu nodded. When he merged with Mu Ling had taught him all the plant information in the world, including the 9-chi soul cleansing flower. It was also at that time that he understood that the flower in Shi Minghui's hand was not the 9-chi soul cleansing flower, but the 9-yin flower. The 9-yin flower grew in the vicinity of the 9-chi soul cleansing flower, and the 9-yin flower could almost pass off as the real thing. The only difference was that the leaves of the 9-yin flower had a thin black line, while the 9-chi soul cleansing flower did not. The black lines on the leaves of the flower Shi Minghui just showed were exactly the same as the description of the 9-yin flower. If one was not a knowledgeable person like Mu, they would not be able to tell the difference. The 9-yin flower's existence was to protect the real 9-chi soul cleansing flower from harm and attract the attention of the invaders. The 9-yin flower was accompanied by a deadly poison. This poison was colorless and odorless. Once the 9-yin flower was crushed, it would be released and destroy the meridians and paralyze the whole body. After half an hour, the poison would definitely take effect and kill the victim. Then where is the real 9-chi soul cleansing flower? Xiao Shuai asked puzzledly. I don't know. Mu Yu also did not know. He searched the entire mountain, but did not find any trace of the 9-chi soul cleansing flower. It did not seem to be on this mountain. Mu Yu took out the map again and looked at Mount Luqing drawn by Mu. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and said, "We were all wrong. The 9-chi soul cleansing flower is on the highest peak of Mount Luqing, but the mountain we are on is not the highest peak. How could it not be? We saw it from below just now. This is the highest peak. Look, we can overlook the other peaks from here." Little Shuai looked into the distance and confirmed that he was not mistaken. Mu Yu shook her head. On the map, there were 6 mountains. Counting from the left, the first one was the highest peak. However, the first mountain had been cut in half by a mysterious force, so the mountain they were standing on had become the highest peak. Shi Minghui must have found out from Shi Dengtian that the 9-chi soul cleansing peanut was at the highest peak of Mount Luqing, so he set up a trap here to wait for Mu Yu. It was a pity that Shi Minghui and Mu Yu had both found the wrong mountain peak. The 9-chi soul cleansing flower has already been buried in the ground, right? Little Shuai shrugged helplessly. Do we really have to dig 3 feet into the ground? If the highest peak is destroyed, I'm afraid that the 9-chi soul cleansing flower won't survive. This was the problem that Mu Yu was worried about. The 9-chi soul cleansing flower loved the cold, so it grew on the highest peak of Mount Luqing. Once it left the cold, it would wither. If the highest peak was cut off, the 9-chi soul cleansing flower would be destroyed. When Mu reached the second heavenly layer, there were 2 stalks of 9-chi soul cleansing flowers growing on the highest peak of Luqing Mountain. Mu and Shi Dengtian both picked one. As the other was still a sprout, they did not pick it and let it continue to grow. Who knew that after a few decades, the highest peak of Mount Luqing was cut off by an unknown force? Let's go to those hills to look. Mu Yu did not have much hope. He understood that it was almost impossible to find a 9-chi soul cleansing flower on a hill. The temperature below was not suitable for the growth of the 9-chi soul cleansing flower. After the highest peak of Mount Luqing collapsed, the 9-chi soul cleansing flower was probably gone. Even so, Mu Yu still went down the mountain with a heart full of hope. He searched along the mountain range formed by the collapse of the highest peak. Those mountain ranges had long been covered with vegetation and were verdant and lush. Mu Yu went into the trees to search, but he did not find any signs of the 9-chi soul cleansing flower. Was it really destroyed? Mu Yu was somewhat disappointed. Although Shi Minghui took away the fake 9-chi soul cleansing flower, Mu Yu did not find the real one. Things did not develop in a direction that was beneficial to Mu Yu. For the current Mu Yu, compared to losing the token to leave the second heaven, killing Shi Minghui, and committing the crime of killing a fellow disciple, the worst thing was that he could not find the 9-chi soul cleansing flower. Where else can the 9-chi soul cleansing flower grow? Muyu thought to himself. The sword of Mu Ling in his hand seemed to have heard Muyu's words. It suddenly trembled again and flew towards the sky. Muyu's mind moved. Ever since he merged with the sword of Mu Ling, he could feel some reactions from the sword of Mu Ling. Just like the last time at Mount Fulong in the Mayan mountain range, the sword of Mu Ling seemed to know what Muyu wanted. This broken thing is a taciturn gourd. Can it say a few words before leaving? Xiao Shuai cursed as he followed Muyu towards the sky. They flew higher and higher, gradually surpassing the mountain peak from before. The surrounding air became more and more oppressive, and the temperature had already dropped below zero. Muyu could even feel ice crystals forming in the clouds. What made him feel most uncomfortable was that the cold air had gradually invaded his body, and even his spiritual power could not dispel it. Achoo! Xiao Shuai actually sneezed. He grumbled a few words and burrowed into Muyu's embrace. Why is it so high? Mu Ling was still ascending and had no intention of stopping. Muyu could only brace himself and fly upwards. The cold air had already invaded his spiritual power, and he began to feel that he was trembling from the cold. They were already tens of thousands of meters up in the sky. If they continued to descend, he suspected that he would become an ice sculpture. But at this moment, a sparkling and translucent rainbow light streaked across the sky, forming an arch bridge. The arch bridge was formed purely from ice. It was incomparably mysterious, as if it had been carved out of nature. It was exquisite and elegant, and in the center of the arch bridge floated a frail flower. The petals were sparkling and translucent, and there were 9 ethereal leaves rhythmically moving like gas. There were no thin black lines on the leaves. 9 Chi's soul-cleansing flower. Muyu was extremely surprised. The 9 Chi's soul-cleansing flower was actually at such a high place. The mountain it grew on had collapsed, but it was still growing here, and it did not suffer any damage. No, this arch bridge is an ingenious spirit-gathering array. It is specially used to seal the 9 Chi's soul-cleansing flower's spiritual power, who has such great ability to create an array out of thin air. Muyu walked closer. With his sensitivity towards arrays, he immediately discovered that something was wrong. The array's foundation was actually the cold air. As long as the cold air did not disperse, the array would exist forever. The cold air was a substance without a physical body. To be able to use the cold air as the source to set up an array, this kind of method was far beyond Muyu's imagination. Muyu instantly thought of a person, his own master, Feng Haochen. The immortal confining prison that he set up was based on the illusory heaven and earth. This kind of method was already extremely powerful. There are a few words on this. Xiao Shuai flew over and shouted. Muyu looked at the words engraved on the ice crystal arch bridge and softly read, "This treasure is precious." It accidentally crashed into this mountain. The mountain was destroyed, but the flower remained. Set up an array to raise it and give it to the fated person. Phantom clear rain. These few words were charming, vigorous, and powerful. They revealed a sense of vicissitudes and also emitted a trace of simplicity. It was completely natural, as if it had passed through the bustling time and space. It flickered with the light of wisdom, causing people to sigh endlessly. Who is Phantom Clear Rain? Muyu frowned. He had never heard of this name. The second celestial layer was once the territory of the demon race. However, the demon race had been extinct for many years. This Phantom Clear Rain was definitely not a member of the demon race. To give it to the fated person, it must be referring to humans. This Phantom Clear Rain was definitely a member of the human race, accidentally crashing into this mountain. Could it be that the highest peak of 6 Pillars Mountain was destroyed by this person called Phantom Clear Rain? But how could a human be in the second celestial layer? How could a human destroy a mountain? A mountain of 6 Pillars Mountain could be quite huge. What level of cultivation did a person have to be able to destroy a mountain? Most importantly, who was this Phantom Clear Rain? How could he appear in the second celestial layer? When Dead Tree was young, 6 Pillars Mountain had not collapsed yet. In other words, this should have happened in recent decades. It was impossible for a nascent soul stage disciple from the third celestial layer to have such great wrist strength to set up this kind of spirit-gathering array. It was even more impossible for him to destroy a mountain. Then, who was this phantom clear rain? Ever since he came to the second celestial layer, Muyu clearly felt that many things were not right. He had discovered Tu Yumeng's territory in the second celestial layer. This should not have happened. Tu Yumeng had been living in the third celestial layer, but he had thought of a way to sneak into the second celestial layer. Then, he followed Qiao Shui, who knew the demon race like the back of her hand, to break into the demon race's underground palace. He found the white ape demon king's inner core and was almost killed by it. And now, he discovered another phantom Qing Yu who had the ability to reach the heavens. She was actually able to crash into a mountain peak. Was this second celestial layer really just a wasteland where demon beasts were rampant? Little Handsome, do you know this phantom clear rain? Didn't you say that you could also destroy a mountain? Muyu curled his lips and said, Phantom clear rain. Actually, he sounds quite familiar. Don't you think that his name is very similar to that white-bearded old man's? Little Handsome frowned and thought for a while. White-bearded old man. Are you talking about my master? Sword Shadow, Chun Feng, Phantom Clear Rain. Eh? You don't say. It seems like that's really the case. Muyu was a little surprised. Could this Phantom Clear Rain and Sword Shadow Chun Feng have some kind of relationship? I'm not sure. I think I heard the white-bearded old man mention Phantom Clear Rain before, but I forgot. Who cares? Let's take the 9 Chi Soul, cleansing flower, and hurry down the mountain. It's too cold here. Little Handsome shivered and went back into Muyu's embrace. This reminded Muyu. They came here to look for the 9 Chi Soul, cleansing flower. Since this Phantom Clear Rain was so kind to preserve the 9 Chi Soul, cleansing flower, Muyu naturally had to pretend to be the fated person. He stretched out his hand and plucked the 9 Chi Soul, cleansing flower. The 9 Chi Soul, cleansing flower slightly rippled, and the surrounding spirit-gathering array showed faint array patterns. Muyu carefully placed the 9 Chi Soul, cleansing flower into the sandalwood box. This sandalwood box was given to him by Deadwood in advance. Deadwood already knew how to preserve the 9 Chi Soul, cleansing flower. The sandalwood box was engraved with a profound ice array that could emit cold air and protect the medicinal properties of the flower. It was also the best method to preserve the 9 Chi Soul, cleansing flower. The 9 Chi Soul, cleansing flower left the ice crystal bridge, and the bridge seemed to have completed its mission. It gradually turned into ice fragments and dissipated, fusing with the cold air in the surroundings. Muyu returned to the foot of the mountain and looked at the map before heading in the direction of the Netherworld herb. Whether or not there was a way to get out of the second celestial layer, he had to find the Netherworld herb first. Chapter 237. The second layer of heaven had always been the world of demonic beasts. The spiritual energy here was rich, and many of the demonic beasts were exceptionally strong. It was also because of the abundance of spiritual energy that there were countless rare and precious medicinal herbs. The second layer of heaven was a huge herb warehouse for the disciples of the Danding sect. There were many herbs that were hard to buy in the second layer of heaven. It wasn't just them. If people from other sects had a bit of foresight, they wouldn't return empty-handed from the second layer of heaven. The second layer of heaven was like a treasure trove that hadn't been completely excavated. Whether it was spiritual energy or free will, it was very rich. If it wasn't for the fact that there were many demonic beasts and the teleportation array's restriction on cultivators' cultivation, many third-layer cultivators would choose to cultivate here for 10 years or so. Their cultivation would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Unfortunately, those who entered the second layer of heaven were all nascent soul stage geniuses from various sections. If these people really cultivated in the second layer of heaven for 10 years, their cultivation would probably break through to the out-of-body stage. At that time, they would be trapped in the second layer of heaven forever. No one wanted to encounter such a situation. In the wasteland east of the desolate land, there was a dried-up pond full of reeds. This place was very far from the underground palace of the demonic beasts. Suddenly, a figure flashed silently beside the pond. If Muyu was here, he would definitely shout excitedly. This person was Qiao Shui, the person he wanted to explain things to. Qiao Shui sniffed lightly, as if she had smelled something. She squatted down and touched the withered grass under her feet. She frowned slightly and then carefully jumped into the pond. She looked around vigilantly, as if she was looking for something. A rustling sound came from the reeds. Qiao Shui held her breath and looked at the surging reeds in front of her. There seemed to be something slowly approaching. A patch of reeds fell and stood up again, swaying like waves. Then, a scarlet-boned flamed scarlet tiger slowly appeared in front of Qiao Shui. The flaming bone red tiger was an extremely rare species of demonic beasts. They were born with the strength of a third-rank demonic beast. When they reached adulthood, they would become fourth-rank demonic beasts. It was an extremely fast demonic beast. It was like a red wind. Ordinary demonic beasts and cultivators couldn't withstand a single claw from it. The flaming bone red tiger growled and stared at Qiao Shui. Qiao Shui heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. Big brother Qi, what's the situation? The flaming bone red tiger shook its body. Then all the bones in its body started to vibrate. It raised its huge tiger head high and pounced forward. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into a mighty young man. His eyes were still red, but other than that, he was no different from human. When he landed on the ground, he was already wearing human clothes. This bone flame scarlet tiger was actually a demon. That's great. Qiao Shui, I finally found you. The situation isn't optimistic. I've discovered that the people from the Gate of Hell have been acting strangely ever since they entered the second layer of heaven. Their target is also the White Ape Demon King. Red Tiger's voice was like muffled thunder, full of vigor. With a flip of her hand, Qiao Shui took out the White Ape's inner core she had snatched from Muyu in the Monster Race's underground palace. It exuded an aura that made one's heart palpitate. Even Scarlet Tiger felt his soul tremble in submission. This is the Demon King's inner core. You obtained it? Scarlet Tiger looked at the White Ape Demon King's inner core with a fervent expression. His eyes revealed a look of reverence as he didn't dare slack off. Demon King White Ape was an absolute sage among the demons. The aura emitted by the Demon King's inner core left Scarlet Tiger in awe. Yes, now that I've found the inner core, the rest will be much easier. Qiao Shui nodded. She wasn't affected by the Demon King's inner core's aura when she faced it. After all, she wasn't a demon, but a human who was slightly abnormal like Muyu. She put away the Demon King's inner core and slowly said, "Back in the third layer of heaven, the Gate of Hell has been trying to use the Possession 9 arrays to seize the White Ape Demon King's soul and body. We must not let them succeed." Muyu's guess was right. Qiao Shui and the Flaming Bone Red Tiger were indeed from the third layer of heaven like him. The third firmament demons hadn't gone extinct. Instead, they had gone into seclusion after being suppressed by humans. However, they knew everything about the third continent like the back of their hand. After all, they came from demon beasts that had gained sentience. They could rely on many demon beasts to gather information about humans. They had entered the second layer of heaven with the humans to search for the White Ape Demon King and his Demon King's inner core. They wanted to rescue the White Ape Demon King that was sealed in the second layer of heaven and strengthen the demon race. However, they never expected that the most hated human sect, the Gate of Hell, would target the White Ape Demon King. The Flaming Bone Red Tiger looked at the sun in the east. At this moment, the sun was blazing and the heat was overwhelming. He snorted coldly and said angrily, "How dare they offend Lord Demon King? They are courting death." Grandpa Azure Dragon said that the human race's waters run deep. It's not a coincidence that a sect like the Gate of Hell exists. Their methods are very strange. There's nothing the people from the Gate of Hell can't do. You have to be careful when gathering information, said Qiao Shui seriously. Got it. Qiao Shui, I'm not as rash as Big Bear and Big Bear. I know my limits, said the Flaming Bone Red Tiger. Speaking of Big Bear and Big Bear, have they found the White Ape Demon King's sealed location? Asked Xiao Shui. She was most concerned about the White Ape Demon King's sealed location. They didn't know where the White Ape Demon King was trapped in the second layer of heaven. All they could do was search the area. Red Tiger shook his head. I haven't found it. Ever since the demons in the second layer of heaven disappeared, no one knows where the Demon King is sealed. 1,000 years ago, a human mighty figure sealed the White Ape Demon King in the vast second layer of heaven. I suspect that we third firmament demons aren't the only ones who don't know. Perhaps even the second firmament demons haven't found him. The 1,000-year time limit is approaching. The seal has loosened, and the Demon King will emerge. The 1,000-year seal will break the Demon King's undying body. The gate of hell's possession formation will threaten his life. We must rescue the White Ape Demon King before the people from the gate of hell do, said Xiao Shui seriously. The demon race had once fought with the humans for the world. However, the third firmament demons weren't as powerful as the humans. A human from the third heaven had defeated a few demon kings and sealed them away. The most accurate information was that the White Ape Demon King was sealed in the second heaven. Regardless of whether it was the third or second firmament demons, they were all in awe of the Demon King. They had always been looking forward to the Demon King's return to lead the demon race to glory. The Demon King's inner core fell into the hands of the second firmament demons and was closely guarded. Unfortunately, for some unknown reason, the second heaven demon clan had been completely annihilated. No one knew what the reason was. Fortunately, the White Ape Demon King had already forced his inner core out when he was sealed. The second firmament demons are guarding it. As long as we can get the Demon King to fuse with his inner core before the people from the Gate of Hell do, we won't have to worry about the people from the Gate of Hell, said the Bone Flame Scarlet Tiger. No, the White Ape Demon King can't fuse with his inner core in the second firmament. Otherwise, the teleportation formation we built won't be able to withstand his power. He has to return to the third firmament before he can fuse with his inner core. If the Demon King can't go to the third firmament, then Grandpa Long's plan will go down the drain. Xiao Shui shook her head. I'm sorry, I forgot. The Bone Flame Scarlet Tiger nodded in embarrassment. He hadn't considered this point. He and Xiao Shui had entered the second firmament 2 months ago to search for the White Ape Demon King's whereabouts. Unfortunately, they still couldn't find him. Their teleportation formation didn't open once every 10 years like the human race's. Although the restrictions were similar to the human race's teleportation formation, it was at least faster than the human race's teleportation formation. Most importantly, their teleportation formation was fixed and undamaged, so everyone could gather together when they teleported in. But now, the third layer of Hell's Gate's people had also come to interfere. They had their eyes on the White Ape Demon King of the demon race. There were 5 of them, and there were also 60 other unknown humans scattered all over the second layer of heaven. Once this matter was made known to all the human youths, then the situation would not be optimistic for Xiao Shui and the others. Where are the people from the Gate of Hell now? Asked Xiao Shui. They're heading east. Brother Scarlet Tiger, you continue to track the movements of the people from the Gate of Hell. I'll go find the White Ape Demon King's sealed location. We'll split up and make sure not to be discovered by them. Once we find the White Ape Demon King's sealed location, we'll contact them the old way, said Xiao Shui. The Bone Flame Scarlet Tiger nodded and then jumped, turning back into a huge demon beast. After glancing at Xiao Shui, he disappeared into the reeds. Xiao Shui's figure turned around and also disappeared. Say, if only those 2 little flying fishes didn't talk too much and broke that unlucky guy's jade pendant, then we could have gotten the teleportation jade pendant. Little Shui muttered. After you killed the young man, for some reason, she broke the teleportation jade pendant in his hand, causing the teleportation formation to pull his corpse back to the third firmament. Returning to the third firmament is also a big problem. That old bastard Sure Dang Tian is definitely waiting for me. Maybe he's waiting to skin me alive. When you thought about how Sure Dang Tian was holding a bag full of exploding pills and waiting for him to come out, he felt a headache coming on. Sure, Dangtian, using a rank 6 exploding pill was no joke. That was a real severed soul stage cultivator. When the time came, he might not even have a corpse left. That's not necessarily true. Think about it. This matter was planned by Sure Dangtian. He has already successfully destroyed your teleportation jade pendant, so he definitely knows that you won't be able to come out. Maybe he won't be waiting for you there. Little Shuai thought for a while and said dejectedly, although in reality, it seems like we can't get out either. That unlucky old bastard can be considered avenged. In comparison, Muyu was more worried about Kumu. Kumu had no cultivation now, and he was in the Pill Cauldron sect alone with the dragon vine on him. It was really dangerous. Right now, Sure Dangtian definitely knew that Sure Minghui died in his hands. He judged that Muyu wouldn't be able to escape from the second firmament. Would he vent his anger on Kumu? With the protection of Lung Bingxue and the Old Guard, Sure Dangtian wouldn't dare to do anything to Kumu. However, Lung Bingxue and the Old Guard couldn't protect Kumu all day long. What do you think Xiao Shui is now? She shouldn't have come in from the Pill Cauldron sect. Maybe she has a way to get out. Muyu muttered. Xiao Shui didn't give Muyu a chance to explain. She could control water, and Muyu could control wood. Unfortunately, in order to keep their secrets, they didn't use their respective abilities. In the end, Xiao Shui was forced to reveal her ability to control water. However, Xiao Shui only cared about escaping with the Demon King's core. She thought that Muyu was also here for the Demon King's core. It would be great if Xiao Shui is really from the Demon Clan. Maybe we could discuss with her and sneak out through the Demon Clan's teleportation array. Little Shuai said, the second firmament is so big. We have to find her first. Muyu flew casually. He could only place his hopes of getting out on Xiao Shui. Are you lost again? The hibiscus soup is here, and the chicken leg mountain is over there. Little Shuai and Mu, you had already taken the wrong path 5 times. They were chased by the demon beasts and unknowingly deviated from their direction. They could only turn around again. Why didn't you say so earlier? Muyu's flying sword came to an emergency stop, then changed direction and continued flying. The chicken leg mountain is here. After the chicken leg mountain, there is the roasted wing mountain. After that, follow the mandarin duck soup. Little Shuai squatted on Muyu's head and looked at the map. He had renamed all the markings on the map. The mandarin duck soup and hibiscus soup refer to lakes and streams. Chapter 238. Damn it, little handsome. Why don't you become its dog food? Didn't it just ignore me? It wants to eat you. Second celestial layer demon beasts roamed freely, so you could never imagine what kind of demon beast you would encounter in the next moment. Muyu accidentally broke into the territory of a 2-headed wind wolf and angered it. As a result, he was chased by it, and the trees of the second celestial layer rejected him, so he could only rely on his flying sword to fly all the way. He originally wanted to jump directly into the sky, but in the sky, a rank 4 double-winged demon vulture flew over and treated him as a luxurious lunch series. Muyu felt that he was simply king a dog. There was a double-winged demon vulture above and a 2-headed wind wolf below. It really matched the proverb, no road to heaven, no door to hell, making him complain incessantly. Fly left, quick! Little Handsome pulled Muyu's ear and shouted while pointing to the left. Muyu's flying sword came to an emergency stop again, avoiding the sharp claws of the double-winged demon vulture, and turned to the direction Little Handsome pointed. He crossed the stream, and then looked back, and found that the 2-headed wind wolf and the double-winged demon vulture had actually turned around and left, as if they were very afraid of this place. Just like the wild wolf and the flying eagle were afraid of the demon race's underground palace. Could it be that this was also the demon race's territory? Little Handsome, not bad. How did you know that if we ran here, they wouldn't dare to chase us? Muyu stopped to gasp for breath and asked after surviving a disaster. Because this is the territory of the rank 6 demon vulture. What? Rank 6 demon vulture? Muyu almost fell to the ground, and he cursed. Do you think we don't have enough trouble? In order to get rid of a rank 4 and rank 5 demon beast, We ran to the territory of a rank 6 demon beast. It's okay, I heard that it didn't have any malicious intent. Look, it's here. Little Handsome said while pointing behind him. A spirit-severing stage aura enveloped Muyu, startling him. Muyu turned around in fear, expecting to see a toad that was at least the size of an elephant to live up to its name as a 6th-rank monster. But in front of him was only a small monster that was about the same size as Xiao Shuai. This little demonic beast was not as ugly as an ordinary toad. On the contrary, it was very beautiful. Its entire body was flowing with light and vibrant colors, and from time to time, it would emit a glue sound. It said that it's sad that the brother toad it likes doesn't like it. Little Handsome translated. Then, he began to communicate with the magic toad. Little Handsome, you have to be careful with your words. Muyu couldn't get a word in edgewise. He could only hope that Little Handsome wouldn't make the lovelorn demon toad angry. However, after the demon toad made a few glue sounds, its sad expression became a trivial matter. It was very friendly to Little Handsome. He didn't know if it liked Little Handsome or something else. In short, Muyu always felt that this demon toad's eyes were full of affection. Little Handsome used a language that Muyu couldn't understand to communicate with the demon toad. Suddenly, he excitedly translated to Muyu, "It said that it likes me much better than the brother toad that doesn't like it. Oh, I also like myself very much." Huh? Muyu helplessly shook his head, thinking that Little Handsome could be narcissistic to this extent. It said that it's the mating season, and it wants to give birth to Little Handsome with me, but I don't have any experience. Little Handsome scratched his head with a puzzled look on his face, and then turned to ask Muyu, "Do you have any experience?" "Hey, experience? I also don't have any experience." Muyu thought that this demon toad was really direct and not reserved at all. Were the communication between these little beasts so straightforward? Little Handsome made a few more glue sounds, and the demon toad's eyes dimmed, looking a little unhappy. "Okay, let's go. I told her that I have someone I like, and let her give up." Little Handsome clapped his hands and jumped on Muyu's shoulder. "Hey, so heartless." Muyu carefully looked at the demon toad, fearing that this little guy would vent his anger on him and swallow him because of the failure to mate. However, seeing that the demon toad seemed to be secretly sad, he hurriedly stepped on his flying sword and slipped away. "Little Handsome, you clearly know how to communicate with demon beasts, so why are we still being chased by those strange demon beasts? Can't you explain the situation to them?" Muyu thought of this matter. For the past few days, they've been dealing with all kinds of demon beasts. Muyu's nerves were tight, and he didn't dare to relax for a moment. "I can understand the language of demon beasts, but some demon beasts don't listen to me." Little Handsome wagged his big tail. Little Handsome was right. Demon beasts were also divided into good and bad tempers. Not all high-level demon beasts looked like they had to eat people. For example, this demon toad and the 2 small flying fish a few days ago. They were all powerful, but they didn't kill innocent people. Muyu compared the map and stumbled all the way to the valley where the dead tree pointed out. After confirming that this was the right place, he looked at the entrance of the valley and fell into deep thought. A pitch-black river flowed into the valley. Above the lifeless river, there was a cyan fog barrier that permeated the entire valley. On the shore, there were some strangely shaped white bones. On the ground, there were some cyan shrubs and plants. Muyu finally knew the reason why the withered tree had turned a beautiful valley into a foul atmosphere. This was simply a replica of the withered tree valley. No, it should be the original. The dead tree used all kinds of poisons and caught so many rare demon beasts, and the original model was to simulate this place. However, Muyu wouldn't naively think that this place would be the same as the withered tree valley. There were many things here that the dead tree couldn't replicate. In fact, it must be more dangerous, and the dead tree had told Muyu this before. This place was so quiet that it was a bit scary. Even the sound of insects had disappeared. Other than powerful demon beasts, very few demon beasts dare to come here. The dead tree had been here before. At that time, he was still young, but he had a narrow escape. After seeing the legendary netherworld grass, he encountered a life-threatening danger and had to crush the jade to escape. For Muyu, once he encountered danger, there was no way out. He could only face it. Others could go in and explore because they had the transportation jade to protect their lives, but Muyu didn't. Little Shuai, wait for me outside. If I don't come back in 10 days, find someone to take you out of here. Muyu said seriously. Little Shuai was a mysterious guy. He didn't intend to bring Little Shuai into danger. If something happened to him, Little Shuai could find someone to leave the second celestial layer and go back to report to the dead tree. With Little Shuai's ability, there was no need to worry about any danger in the second celestial layer. No, it's so quiet outside. It's too scary. Little Shuai shook its tail. I'll follow you. Anyway, it's none of my business if there's any danger. Muyu laughed. This guy's mind was simple. It spent most of its time eating and sleeping. Except for occasionally throwing it out as bait, Muyu is the one to solve every danger. One man and one beast carefully stepped into the valley. For Muyu, this adventure was related to his life. Previously, the dead tree's strength was at the 9th celestial layer, but he couldn't reach the end. Muyu's cultivation was far inferior to the dead tree's. Moreover, the reason why the dead tree was at ease with Muyu going in was because of the transportation jade. If the dead tree knew that Muyu had lost the transportation jade, he would definitely not allow Muyu to go in. The poisonous fog here was basically ineffective against Muyu. However, the green poisonous fog reduced the surrounding visibility. Muyu could only see 1 or 2 meters in front of him. Under such conditions, it would be very dangerous if he encountered a sneak attack from a demonic beast. Muyu's shadow clone sword floated around him at all times, ready to deal with any sudden changes. After walking for about 2 hours, a verdant plant suddenly appeared in front of them. The plant's leaves were thick, and the stem grew on the cap of a mushroom. There was a bright purple flower on the stem. The flower was like a gem, shiny and eye-catching. The air was also filled with the smell of raw meat. Muyu recognized this plant. It was a carnivorous flower. It relied on its bright appearance and the smell of fresh meat to attract demonic beasts and then eat them. When Muyu found it, he was only about 2 meters away from it. The carnivorous flower was a plant with consciousness. In addition, a second celestial layer plant was a bit resistant to Muyu. Therefore, he chose not to disturb this flower. Muyu bypassed the carnivorous flower and went inside. He walked along the cliff of the valley. The cliff was wet and covered with moss. He couldn't see what the top of the cliff looked like. He also didn't plan to climb up. The sky outside gradually darkened. Darkness surrounded Muyu. He didn't dare to light a fire in a situation where he wasn't sure. Light in the dark would attract the attention of something without thinking. He stopped. He couldn't go on like this. He had to wait until dawn. Before the sky was completely dark, he found a huge stone. He cleaned up the moss on it and then sat on it. He didn't dare to relax his vigilance. According to the dead tree, this place was full of danger. Maybe if he slept, there would be no tomorrow. Muyu closed his eyes. Spiritual chi condensed in his ears. At night, the ears were more important than the eyes. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The sound of friction faintly entered Muyu's ears. He didn't know where it came from. The sound of flowing water was mixed with some splashing sounds. Maybe some demonic beasts came out of the water. It was better if they didn't come here. Gee! A sharp sound pierced through the air and shot towards Muyu. Muyu tilted his head. Something passed by his ear and hit the cliff behind him. A few more piercing sounds came. Muyu immediately stepped on the flying sword and flew up. At the same time, he poured his spiritual chi into a few flaming stones and threw them forward. He had to know what was attacking so that he could deal with it. With a flash of fire, the haze was slightly dispelled. Muyu vaguely saw a few loaches with 4 limbs on the riverbank. When they saw the fire, these demonic beasts retreated a little. They were obviously afraid of the fire. Although the demonic beasts were afraid of the fire, Muyu soon found more sounds coming from the river. The fire attracted the attention of some demonic beasts. Muyu made a prompt decision to leave this place. He turned around and flew away. After flying for a while, he landed on the ground. Flying in this place consumed a lot of spiritual power. Those monster beasts should have been attracted by the flames, so he could relax a little. However, just as Muyu landed, a slippery tentacle wrapped around Muyu's ankle. A huge pulling force came from the soles of his feet. Before Muyu could react, he was pulled away. Moreover, there was a numbing pain coming from his ankle. This tentacle was not a plant, but a demonic beast. There were thorns on the tentacle. It was actually sucking his blood. Muyu's flying sword slashed down and cut off the tentacle that wrapped around him. He then wanted to fly up. Who knew that a thick and solid arm would swing towards him? He was knocked dizzy. A flaming stone was ignited again. With the help of the fire, a monster with a human body and octopus legs appeared in front of him. Although it was called a human body, it was more like a gorilla's body. He really didn't know how these demonic beasts grew up. Could it be that they were all hybrids of different species? Muyu was sent flying by the gorilla's arm and smashed into the ground. That demonic beast continued to pounce towards Muyu. He could only step on the flying sword and fly up. Flying was a very strenuous thing for Muyu. After he was sure that the demonic beast behind him couldn't catch up, he stopped in midair. The demonic beasts here were the same as the ones in the Withered Tree Valley. They basically came out at night. Night was the most unsuitable time to run around. However, this wasn't the Withered Tree Valley. He could find a cave in the cliff. Muyu tried to dig one himself. Unfortunately, he didn't know what the rocks here were made of. They were extremely hard. He busied himself for a long time and only managed to dig a hole the size of a bowl. Chapter 239. A dazzling white light shone on Muyu's eyelids. Muyu narrowed his eyes and woke up. His head was dizzy, as if he had been hit by a stick. Later, he remembered that he had indeed been attacked by something. "Brother Muyu, you're awake? Are you okay?" A familiar voice sounded. Someone was shaking him gently, and the voice seemed to be very anxious. "Tian Ran, why are you here?" Muyu opened his eyes and saw the person in front of him. He was overjoyed. "Where am I?" Muyu sat up and placed his hands on the ground. He touched the grass, and the plants on the grass moved slightly under his control. Tian Ran looked at Muyu with concern. "Do you still recognize me?" What did she mean? Muyu felt that Tian Ran's expression was a little strange. She looked at him as if Muyu had been beaten silly. Muyu asked curiously, "Of course I know you. Aren't you Tian Ran?" "Tian Ran, be careful. He's not the original Muyu." Another voice came from his side. Muyu looked over Tian Ran's shoulder and saw Xiao Shue's face. He said in surprise, "Xiao Shue, you're here too? That was great. I've been looking for you for a long time." Soon, Muyu found that something was wrong. Xiao Shue and Tian Ran were not the only ones here. There were also a few people standing next to Xiao Shue. He actually knew all of them: Qingyan, Luo Shang, and Xiangnan. What's going on? Am I dreaming? The first thought that popped into Muyu's mind was that if his senior brothers had entered the second celestial layer, it was impossible for him not to know about it. Although Muyu didn't know the people he met in the Pill Cauldron School's transmission array, if his 3 senior apprentice brothers were inside, he would definitely be able to recognize them at a glance. Muyu grabbed Tian Ran's arm. Tian Ran pulled her hand back, thinking that Muyu was going to do something. Muyu could feel the warmth from Tian Ran's hand. Her smooth skin was so real. This texture couldn't be fake, right? He pinched himself again and felt the pain. In fact, he was doing something unnecessary because the back of his head was still hurting at this moment. Pain meant that it wasn't a dream. But if it wasn't a dream, then why would his senior brother, Tian Ran, and Xiao Shue be together for no reason? "How much do you remember now?" Tian Ran asked cautiously. "How much do you remember?" "I didn't lose my memory." "You are Tian Ran? Aren't we both in the second heaven?" "I remember that I went to a valley. That valley was too dangerous, and I was hit in the head." "Speaking of which, Tian Ran, do you know how to leave the second heaven without a transmission jade pendant?" "My transmission jade pendant was swapped by that bastard Sherdang Tian." Muyu was furious when he thought of this matter. Tian Ran was stunned. She turned her head and looked at Xiao Shue. Xiao Shue's face also changed greatly. The two of them looked at each other and saw the expression in each other's eyes that said something big happened. "Don't joke around, Muyu. We We didn't go anywhere. We have been here all this time, haven't we? Don't scare me. Senior Sure Deng Tian is your master. Why did you call your master a bastard? Tian Ran stood up and let go of Mu Yu. She took a step back as if she was looking at a stranger. Master? Sure Deng Tian? What a joke. It seems that I am really dreaming. Mu Yu sighed. The person he hated the most right now was Sure Deng Tian. If it wasn't for Sure Deng Tian, he could have happily left the second heaven after finding the 9 chi soul, cleansing flower, and underworld grass. However, that bastard had tampered with Mu Yu's transmission jade pendant. But this dream was too realistic. There was pain, and there was also the control of the trees. So how's he going to wake up? Big brother Mu Yu, listen to me. This is not a dream. No matter what you're thinking right now, no matter what you think of the world, it is not real. We are real. This is real. You have been brainwashed by that old man Feng Haochen. Tian Ran said anxiously. Mu Yu frowned. Why was this dream so strange? Feng Haochen was Tian Ran's father. How could Tian Ran say such disrespectful words to Feng Haochen? Mu Yu, come here. At this moment, the voice of the person Mu Yu wanted to see the most came from not far behind him. He turned around and happily saw Feng Haochen's gentle face. Master, you are also in my dream. Mu Yu crawled up and ran towards Feng Haochen without hesitation. After leaving Luochen Mountain for almost 2 years, the person he missed the most was his master. Not to mention that he had fallen into this strange dream to find underworld grass to heal his master. Mu Yu, don't go over. He is a dream master. He is not your master. Tian Ran cried out from behind. Dream master? What was that? Mu Yu didn't listen. Since this was a dream, it wasn't a bad idea to see his master. Mu Yu came to Feng Haochen's side and carefully looked at his master's face. His master always had an indifferent expression. He was neither anxious nor impatient. It was as if nothing in the world could affect his state of mind. Master, are you all right? Although he knew this wasn't real, Mu Yu couldn't help but ask. It's good that you're fine. Things are very complicated now. These people all want to kill me. Feng Haochen stroked his beard and said with a smile. Why do they want to kill you in my dream? Mu Yu asked in confusion. This dream was too realistic. Both Feng Haochen and Tian Ran really existed in this world. Mu Yu could clearly feel the life force circulating in everyone's body. With his perception of life force, he couldn't be wrong. Mu Yu, do you really not recognize your master? A voice that made Mu Yu extremely hateful entered Mu Yu's ears. Only then did Mu Yu notice that Sure Deng Tian was leaning against a tree and sitting on the ground. His hand was clutching his chest. There were traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. His face was dispirited. It seemed like he was severely injured. Sure Deng Tian's voice was sorrowful and old. For a moment, it actually made Mu Yu's heart ache. What the hell? He was the person who caused him to be unable to leave the second celestial stage. Why would he feel heartache for his injuries? There was another person lying beside Sure Deng Tian. Mu Yu took a closer look. It was actually Sure Mingwei. His left hand was dripping with blood, and there was a bloody hole in his chest. He had been dead for a long time. Mu Yu remembered Sure Minghui's wound. Back then, he was the one who ended Sure Minghui's life with a sword. For your sister's master, you still want to discuss me in my dream. You must want to take revenge for your grandson, right? Since this is a dream, I might as well kill you once. Mu Yu cursed. He then took out his flying sword and stabbed towards Sure Deng Tian. Mu Yu, don't. Just as the shadow clone sword was about to stab Sure Deng Tian, Tian Ran suddenly screamed. Her body quickly blocked in front of Sure Deng Tian. Mu Yu was caught off guard. His shadow clone sword pierced through Tian Ran's chest without any obstruction. Tian Ran, what are you doing? Mu Yu was shocked. Looking at Tian Ran's dispirited face, his heart ached again. Even in his dream, Mu Yu did not wish to see Tian Ran get hurt. Because Tian Ran was like his sister. He always wanted to protect Tian Ran from harm. The moment Tian Ran fell, Mu Yu's mind went blank. He subconsciously supported Tian Ran and hugged Tian Ran in his arms. Why are you doing this? Mu Yu did not understand. Why was it that in his dream, Tian Ran was willing to use her life to protect the person he hated? Sure Deng Tian had schemed against him. Sure, Ming Hui wanted to kill Muyu. Muyu only wanted to see if he could kill Sure Dang Tian in his dream to vent his anger. But why did Tian Ran stop him? Tian Ran's hand brushed past Muyu's face. That trace of warmth and gentleness seemed so real. That exuberant life force quickly flowed out of Tian Ran's body. With Muyu's perception of life force, he could not see any illusions of this life force. Was this really just a dream? You killed him. If you find out the truth one day, you will regret it for the rest of your life. I don't want to see you live in guilt for the rest of your life. Tian Ran's mouth leaked a trace of blood. She wiped it away strenuously. She looked at Muyu in a daze. There was love and reluctance, which made Muyu's heart tremble. In that dream, do you still like me? Tian Ran grabbed Muyu's hand. Her eyes were still so pure. She seemed to be using the last bit of strength in her life to ask Muyu. She wanted to hear Muyu's answer. It was as if this was the answer she had always wanted to ask, and only this answer could make her feel at ease. In that dream, was Tian Ran talking about his reality? Muyu's heart felt like it had been hit by someone. The person in the dream said that his reality was a dream. In the dream, she asked him if he liked her in the dream. Flowers bloomed and wilted. The dream was a dream, but not a dream. It was all because of a simple question. He had never thought about this question before. He treated Tian Ran as a pure little sister. He was willing to protect her with his life. When Tian Ran was happy, he was happy. When Tian Ran was bullied, he was angry. When Tian Ran called him Brother Muyu, he even felt that the sky was very blue. He had never seen such a blue sky before. When Tian Ran threw herself into his arms, he was even reluctant to let go. Did he really only treat Tian Ran as a little sister? The barrier in his heart was removed. An indescribable feeling rushed into his mind. Did he like Tian Ran? Why not? The cheerful voice of Brother Muyu softened his heart. He liked Tian Ran. It was a simple like. He wanted to protect her with his life. I like you. Muyu nodded subconsciously and said this sentence. That's good. A blush appeared on Tian Ran's pale face. Then, her breath gradually weakened until it disappeared. He watched as Tian Ran closed her eyes in satisfaction and left without any regrets. However, he felt a bit melancholy in his heart. He kept comforting himself that this was just a dream. Once he got rid of this dream, he would go find Tian Ran and ask the real Tian Ran, "Do you like me?" But why does heart hurt so much? Xiao Shui looked at Muyu. The moment Muyu nodded, her eyes dimmed. She came to Tian Ran's side and took the bodies of Tian Ran and Yu-Wan from Muyu. She looked at Muyu with a complicated expression. She gritted her teeth and retreated to Shi Dongtian's side. You really don't remember anything. Even if Tian Ran sacrificed her life, she still couldn't awaken your memories? Xiao Shui quietly looked at Muyu. However, her body was trembling slightly. Could it be that this man in front of her would never come back? This is just a dream, isn't it? Muyu tried to find a flaw in this dream. For example, Tian Ran wouldn't call him that, and sure Dengtian wouldn't be his master. Of course, this was impossible. How could it be so ridiculous? But why did the Xiao Shui and Tian Ran in front of him seem so real? Chapter 240. A group of people stood on a plain. The plain was very wide, with green grass and willow trees. White clouds floated by occasionally, leisurely looking at the group of people on the plain. Muyu knew all of these people. There were 2 people he hated, and the rest were people he was close to. Whether it was his master or his senior brothers, they were all people that Muyu was very willing to meet. Because Xiao Shui could control water, Muyu also treated her as one of his own. Among these people, Tian Ran was the person that Muyu wanted to protect the most. She was gentle, kind, and also very pure. Muyu had always treated her as a younger sister. However, when Tian Ran suddenly asked Muyu if he liked her, Muyu's heart was moved. Only then did Muyu realize that he had always liked Tranquil. After meeting Lan Ling, he had fallen in love with Tranquil. He liked everything about Tranquil and was willing to risk his life to protect her. But just now, he killed Tian Ran in his dream with his own hands. I won't allow Tian Ran to come to any harm. Muyu said softly. If you think this is a dream, then your so-called reality is flawless? Think about it carefully. A dream master can't create a flawless dream. What happened when you were young? Your luck? You can get whatever you want. In your reality, you are the main character. You won't die. No matter how dangerous things are, what you do will be the focus of everyone. A dream master can change your worldview, but he can't do it perfectly. You will definitely find something wrong. A teardrop fell from the corner of Xiao Shue's eyes. Her voice was no longer calm, but hoarse. She wanted to wake Muyu up. Muyu smiled. Everything in his reality was complete. He didn't find anything wrong. Sometimes, luck seemed to be on his side, but it wasn't always smooth sailing. From the Moyun mountain range to the third continent, from the withered tree valley to the floating immortal island, from the elixir cauldron sect to the second heaven, everything felt so real. How could it be a dream? He won't be able to come back. He has forgotten who he is. He has taken Feng Haochen as his master. He is already standing against us. Luo Shang said with a serious face. His entire body was ignited in flames, and a blazing aura assaulted his face. The burning heaven sword shone with a red light, and was extremely sharp. Cheng Yin frowned, and held the cleansing erosion sword in front of him. Xiang Nan's easygoing expression changed, and he looked at Muyu as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Muyu couldn't understand. With his cultivation, whether it was Cheng Yin or Luo Shang, he had no chance of winning at all. What were they worried about? This dream was really strange. He needed to wake up. We didn't have a chance of winning in the first place. Without Muyu, we can't defeat this illusionary master. What should we do now? Xiangnan asked nervously. Muyu frowned slightly. Although Xiangnan was usually very lazy, his cultivation wasn't any weaker than Muyu's. However, Xiangnan seemed to be very wary of him in the dream. What was going on? Muyu's life force is too strong. He is the opponent we don't want to meet the most. I didn't expect things to develop to this stage. One of us has turned against him. If we can't awaken Muyu, we won't be able to defeat the illusionary master, Cheng Yin said seriously. Cheng Yin's words made Muyu even more confused. Cheng Yin was one of the people who understood Muyu the most. If there was one person that Muyu could never catch up to, it was definitely not Luo Shang, but Cheng Yin. Seeing your brother, Xiangnan, find an opportunity to kill Feng Haochen. Xiao Shui, let's stop Muyu together, Luo Shang said in a low voice. Luo Shang had once summoned a sea of fire to suppress Muyu in the Moyun mountain range. Why would he be afraid of Muyu? Muyu listened to these strange words. He felt that things were getting more and more ridiculous. Why were there cliques in the dream? How could the three of them stand against their master? Wasn't this dream constructed according to their thoughts? Otherwise, how could they dream of what they thought of during the day? No matter how strange the dream was, it should be constructed according to their worldview. Why was everything reversed here? This dream was too chaotic. Even Muyu couldn't figure it out. Muyu felt that it was too tiring to think about this dream. He looked at his three senior brothers and said firmly, although this is a dream, I still don't want to see anyone disrespecting Master. Muyu stubbornly stood in front of Feng Haochen. Since he didn't know how to escape from this dream, then he would do what he wanted to do in the dream. He glanced at the lifeless Tian Ran, and a sense of melancholy welled up in his heart. He swore to himself that he would never allow something like this to happen to Tian Ran in the real world. Xiao Shui gently placed Tian Ran down beside Shi Deng Tian. She looked at Muyu, and the temperature around them suddenly dropped by a few degrees. The tears in her eyes had already turned into icicles, and the water spirit around her waist coiled around her. On the other side, Luo Shang was like a golden crow. His spiritual energy was burning around his body, and he and Xiao Shui formed a world of ice and fire. Muyu felt that this scene was very funny. Fire and water were enemies, but they were standing together. He was of the wood element, so there was no way he could fight both of them at the same time. He really didn't know what they were worried about. Of the two people behind Luo Shang, Cheng Yin had unknowingly put on a set of sturdy armor, and the erosion cleansing sword was trembling slightly. Xiangnan shouted, and all the muscles on his body turned into crystal-clear diamonds. His fists were extraordinarily huge, as if they could destroy the world with a single punch. Metal and earth control. Muyu had never seen Qingyan and Xiangnan use their abilities. Even though he knew that Qingyan and Xiangnan were the same as him, Qingyan and Xiangnan remembered their master's words, so they didn't use their Yumeng abilities. Muyu wanted to see just how powerful they were in the dream. Muyu summoned his shadow swords, and 9 flying swords appeared around him using the 9 forms of the falling dust. It was profound and exquisite. Immediately after, he was shocked. Since when could he create 9 shadow swords? Only by creating 9 flying swords could he unleash the true power of the falling dust swordsmanship. In the past, Muyu could only create 5 flying swords at most. If he created 1 more, his spiritual energy wouldn't be able to keep up and would be quickly depleted. However, in his dream, it was so easy to create 9 flying swords. It was as if he had endless spiritual energy in his body, and he couldn't wait to vent it. Flames soared into the sky, and ice flashed. Xiao Shui and Luo Shang's ice and fire attacked Muyu from the left and right, while the erosion-cleansing sword whistled and pierced towards Muyu with a golden light. Xiangnan stomped on the ground, and earth spikes surged from where Muyu was standing, enveloping all the plants. He wanted to cut off Muyu's wood control. Muyu flew into the sky, and a strange wood power came from the 9 flying swords. He was surprised to find that Muling's swords had already merged with the shadow swords. The 9 flying swords contained a huge amount of vitality, as if they controlled the life and death of all things in the world. With a thought, one of the flying swords turned into a towering tree. The vast vitality formed a huge barrier with green dots of light, forcibly blocking the attack of the ice and fire. Luo Shang's scarlet flames continued to burn Mu Yu's vitality barrier. However, every time a dot of light was destroyed, more green dots would appear from the flames, multiplying and multiplying endlessly. The terrifying vitality of the sword was fully displayed here. Muyu was extremely shocked. He never knew that his Mu Ling had such a terrifying ability. When Cheng Yin and Xiang Nan used Muyu to confront Bing Hua, they had already pointed their spears at Feng Haochen. The sky was filled with flying swords and stone awls that emitted a cold light. Feng Haochen waved his hand, and a huge sword light surged. A white light met the sword rain and stone awls. The white light shattered the sword shadows and destroyed the stone awls. When the two collided, an earth-shattering boom sounded. "All of you, come at me." Muyu fixed his eyes on Xiangnan. His other sword turned into a vine dragon, which moved nimbly between the star-observing sword and the stone awls, and coiled around Xiangnan. Walls of earth appeared in front of Xiangnan. However, every time the vine dragon hit a wall, thousands of tentacles would grow and crawl all over the walls, destroying them from the inside. All of Xiangnan's walls were destroyed, and the vine dragon coiled around him again. He waved his hand, and with a force of qi, he forcefully bounced it away. However, the green dots invaded Xiangnan's arm, as if there was no resistance. Cracks had already appeared on Xiangnan's thick fist, and green sprouts stubbornly emerged from the cracks. "Senior brother," Xiangnan shouted. Cheng Yin decisively swung his erosion-cleansing sword, and its sharp edge crushed all the green sprouts. The cracks on Xiangnan's hand gradually healed, and he quickly retreated, keeping a distance from Muyu. Luo Shang's burning sky sword had already burned a big hole in Mu Yu's vitality barrier. Xiao Shui's ice took the opportunity to enter, and countless water droplets enveloped every green, turning them into ice particles in the blink of an eye. However, countless green sprouts still broke through the ice, and each sprout grew into a variety of plants in the blink of an eye, blocking all the ice outside. Muyu had never used the vitality of plants like this before. He only knew how to use the power of wood in Mu Ling's sword after coming into contact with that sword today. However, he had never felt such a huge amount of vitality in the sword before. He did not know whether it was because he did not know how to use it or because of other reasons. But the ordinary broken sword did not give him a strong feeling. Today, however, this power gave him a brand new experience. His heart was suddenly filled with pride, and a sense of superiority arose spontaneously, as if he was looking down on all living things. Everything in the world was just like this. Millions of lives were under his control, and he could even wipe out the vitality in anyone's body in a year. As long as he wanted to, he could destroy all living things in the world. Heaven and earth were not benevolent, and all living things were ants. Life and death were under his control. Those who followed him would prosper, and those who opposed him would perish. Who could restrain him? Destroy the cultivators, and there will be no more injustice in the world. Destroy the cultivators, they are the root of evil. Destroy the cultivators, and from now on, you will be the ruler of the world. A fluttering throbbing came to Mu Yu's mind. He thought of those mortals who were humiliated by the cultivators, and all kinds of ugly crimes in the world of cultivators who killed people because of a disagreement. Cultivation was against the heavens, and destroying the cultivators was enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. The image of an ancient Bodhi tree formed behind Mu Yu. His eyes gradually turned cold, and his heart was filled with hostility. He needed to kill. He desired to kill. Only by killing could he reshuffle the cards of life in the way he wanted. Then, Mu Yu's left, I was covered with a white light, while his right, I was flickering with a dense black aura. All of you must die. A cold voice came out from Mu Yu's mouth, and it was so cold that it penetrated into his soul. Even Xiao Shui, who controlled the power of ice and water, shivered. They looked at Mu Yu, who was like a death god, in shock, as if they were frightened by Mu Yu's voice. The clear sky changed along with Mu Yu's change, and endless vitality and death aura began to spread in all directions. Life and death, each occupying a part of the sky. Chapter 241. Mu Yu was lost in the boundless power. He was hovering on the edge of life and death. The vitality of all things was under his control, and the withering of all things was also within his control. Between the absolute power of life and death, he was the god of all things in the world. He did not need to be responsible for anything. Luo Shang and the others were sent flying by him. Feng Haochen also seemed to be insignificant in front of him. Why did he have to protect this person? What qualifications did this lowly cultivator have to be his master? Feng Haochen frowned slightly. He obviously did not expect this to happen. However, his aura had already been locked onto by Mu Yu. As long as Mu Yu willed it, he would die and his vitality would be mercilessly taken away by Mu Yu. He had to stop this from happening. He could not just sit and wait for death. Feng Haochen formed a complicated seal with his hands. A ball of white light shot into Mu Yu's mind at lightning speed. It was as if thousands of knives were carving into Mu Yu's nerves. In an instant, all kinds of memories flooded into Mu Yu's mind. The tearing pain caused Mu Yu to let out a long howl. The surrounding 10 miles turned into a barren land. All life disappeared, leaving only Xiao Shui and the others. Although they were not killed, they were suppressed to the point that they could not move. Fragments of memories poured out like flowing water, flashing in Mu Yu's mind. Mu Yu felt as if he was walking through a long and narrow memory corridor. There were clouds and mist there, and there seemed to be figures moving in the clouds. He looked at the clouds in shock because the focus of those figures was him. It was as if someone had carved fragments of his life into the clouds. There were even many unfamiliar scenes in the clouds. The clouds suddenly rushed towards Mu Yu. He was like an outsider, looking at the fragments of his life in the clouds. He could even hear what the people in the clouds were saying. It was a very strange feeling. These fragments seemed so familiar to him. A fire burned the entire village. A baby was crying in the sea of fire. The flames raged and danced wildly, devouring anything in their path. The baby's parents had already fallen into the sea of fire, and the baby's voice weakened. However, a figure suddenly floated into the fire, and a majestic spiritual power swept the baby out of the fire. "You're quite lucky, child." Shi Dongtian's face appeared in front of the baby, as he shook his head slightly. At this moment, Shi Dengtian did not have that gloomy aura. On the contrary, there was a trace of kindness, which made Mu Yu feel extremely strange in his heart. The aura of life and death formed you. From now on, you will be my disciple. Shi Dengtian looked at the infant in his swaddling clothes, pondered for a moment, and said, "From now on, you will be called Mu Yu." The clouds and mist once again became chaotic, and a new scene was reflected in front of Mu Yu's eyes. The little baby had already grown into a teenager. At this moment, he was holding a sword in his hand and practicing in the Pill Cauldron sect. His every move seemed to be methodical. "Mu Yu, your understanding of swordsmanship is very good." "Not bad." Shi Dengtian looked at the teenager from the side and nodded from time to time. "Senior brother, you're so powerful." It was actually Shi Mingwei. Shi Mingwei was his junior brother from the same sect. Mu Yu, who was at the side, felt a surge of anger in his heart. Why did Shi Mingwei and Shi Dengtian become close to him? The clouds and mist in front of him were once again disrupted, and he walked into another scene. However, at this time, he found that he had actually become the main character of this scene. He was no longer an outsider, but an insider. The clouds and mist seemed to have invaded his mind, causing him to hallucinate. "Big brother Mu Yu." Tian Ran's cheerful voice entered Mu Yu's mind. That was the first time he met Tian Ran. Mu Yu fell in love with Tian Ran at first sight, but he didn't dare to say it. Tian Ran was such a simple girl, and Mu Yu wanted to protect her for the rest of his life. He and Tian Ran traveled all over the 3 continents, and their relationship began to subtly change. "I like Big Brother Mu Yu." After several life and death experiences, Tian Ran snuggled up in Mu Yu's arms. Mu Yu's heart was beating very fast. He had been waiting for Tian Ran to say these words for a long time. He smiled happily, hugged Tian Ran tightly in his arms, and lowered his head to kiss her. At that moment, their feelings were endless, and their 2 hearts gently touched. It was so happy, as if nothing could separate them anymore. Another memory surfaced in his mind. In this memory, he saw Qiao Shui. A girl as gentle as water bumped into Mu Yu by chance. "I'm Qiao Shui." Qiao Shui looked at Mu Yu. Her face was flushed red, and she looked very cute. "I'm Mu Yu." Mu Yu scratched his head, not knowing what to do. Qiao Shui was a child with a bitter life. Her family members were killed by her enemies, and she was also hiding from her enemies. Mu Yu helped Qiao Shui escape time and time again. Gradually, Qiao Shui's heart leaned towards Mu Yu, until one day, Qiao Shui looked at Mu Yu with infatuation. She wanted an answer. "Qiao Shui, I'm sorry. The one I like is Tian Ran." Mu Yu looked at Qiao Shui apologetically. "You never gave me a chance, not even in your dreams?" Qiao Shui's eyes were red, as if she already knew this would happen. "Qiao Shui, I'm sorry." Mu Yu turned his gaze elsewhere. The reason why he helped Qiao Shui was because Qiao Shui, like him, had the 5 elements Yuming Demon Clan's ability. "I understand." Qiao Shui bit her lips and turned to leave. Her lonely figure made Mu Yu's heart ache. He realized that he also had indescribable feelings for Qiao Shui. Countless clouds and mist came again, and a memory brought Mu Yu into a room. This room was very dark, and there were only 5 people sitting around a table. "We have to work together to kill that illusionist. With the 5 of us, we can defeat that illusionist," Cheng Yin said solemnly. Luo Shang and Xiang nodded. Mu Yu looked at Qiao Shui, but she didn't look at him. Mu Yu felt a deep sense of guilt towards Qiao Shui. He really wanted to do something to make it up to her. The memories brought Mu Yu to a small path. Mu Yu was still thinking about Qiao Shui when a figure blocked his path. "Who are you?" Mu Yu asked curiously. "My name is Feng Haochen." Feng Haochen's sage-like figure appeared in Mu Yu's eyes. "I'm an illusionist." "You're the illusionist that senior brother mentioned?" Mu Yu's expression changed slightly. He raised a shadow clone sword in his hand. "My mission is to kill you. You have guilt in your heart. There are 2 girls who like you, but you hurt one of them. You keep asking yourself if what you did was right. I can give you a chance," Feng Haochen said calmly, not minding Mu Yu's rudeness. What chance? I will temporarily extract your current memories and let you experience a new life. When you wake up, if you still like Tian Ran, then you've made the right choice. Feng Haochen placed his hands behind his back. Why should I try? Don't you want to give Qiao Shui a chance in the other life? Mu Yu thought of Qiao Shui's lonely expression. She was stubborn and resolute. She had always liked Mu Yu silently. Mu Yu didn't know when he started to like Qiao Shui, but he also liked Tian Ran. He didn't want to let these two girls down. No matter who it was, he didn't want to hurt them. Okay, I agree. Mu Yu looked at Feng Haochen. But in the dream, I want to see Qiao Shui first. Okay. Feng Haochen's eyes flickered with a strange light. No one knew what he was thinking. Empty yourself. Your dream will start from Luochen Mountain. His life started from Luochen Mountain. He took Feng Haochen as his master. He respected Feng Haochen, but he still wanted to see Tian Ran first. Feng Haochen didn't fulfill his promise. He even described Shi Dengtian as a villain. He used a brainwashing method to subdue Mu Yu. After experiencing everything in the third layer continent, he came from the Pill Cauldron sect to the second layer heaven. He came to the valley where the underworld grass grew. When Mu Yu woke up after being knocked on the head by Tian Ran, he couldn't tell what was real and what was a dream. He stubbornly believed that Feng Haochen was the person he wanted to protect, while Shi Dengtian was the person who wanted to kill him. What's going on? Two kinds of memories filled Mu Yu's mind. One was when he started from Luochen Mountain. He protected Feng Haochen and risked his life for him in the second layer heaven. He was framed by Shi Dengtian. The other was when his master taught him how to be a person. In the end, his master died in his hands. The two kinds of memories mixed together. Mu Yu's worldview collapsed. Mu Yu had a splitting headache. He found himself again. The rampaging Yu Meng's power in his body started to dissipate. The death aura in his body was suppressed. The two different views of the world in his mind made him feel confused. What was the truth? What was fake? Was the memory from the falling dust mountain really just a real dream? His reality belonged to this place. It belonged to a completely different world. So many years of memories, from Luochen Mountain to Withered Tree Valley, to Floating Immortal Island, to the Pill Cauldron sect, and finally to the second layer heaven. Everything was just a dream created by Feng Haochen, the illusionist. He was stunned. He couldn't accept this reality. The collision of reality and dream made him feel lost again. Feng Haochen lied to him. He caused the death of Tian Ran and Shi Dengtian. Even though he got his revenge, he couldn't feel happy. He felt that he was fooled. His worldview was no longer normal. He didn't meet Qiao Shui in his new life. He met Tian Ran first and fell in love with Tian Ran. Maybe Feng Haochen never cared about who he liked. Feng Haochen only wanted to brainwash Mu Yu and make Mu Yu one of his people. However, Feng Haochen didn't expect things to go out of his control. The power Mu Yu possessed was something he didn't expect. Mu Yu looked at the other four people. These people were actually once his good friends, but they were all heavily injured now. His gaze stopped on Qiao Shui's face. He had chosen a second life for her, but he didn't give her the corresponding treatment. Did he really like Tian Ran in his dreams? The sky changed color. Thunder rumbled. The rain fell. It poured on Mu Yu's body and soaked his clothes. The cold rain not only chilled his body, but also his heart. He fell into a deep confusion. He didn't know what to do next. Mu Yu, it's raining. Why are you sitting here in a daze? Little Shui came out from Mu Yu's arms. He used his big tail to cover his head and stretched out his paw to pat Mu Yu's face. A ray of light flashed past Mu Yu's head. Little Shui. Chapter 242. Xiao Shui? Why would Xiao Shui appear here? Xiao Shui had followed him since Luochen Mountain, but it did not appear in the memories led by Shi Dengtian. If Mu Yu's memories were really created by an illusionist, then Xiao Shui should not appear here. Wait a minute. Something was not right. He carefully sorted out that memory and finally separated the two chaotic memories. Mu Yu grabbed Xiao Shui and shook it a few times. This gluttonous fellow, there was still a trace of oil at the corner of its mouth. Its true colors as a glutton had not changed. He looked into his Chinquan bag and saw that there was still food left for little Shui. There were also countless elixirs that the Danding sect had extorted from him, as well as the map that Deadwood had left for him. These were things that he should have gotten in the past 2 years. What are you doing? Muyu, are you having epilepsy? Xiao Shui cried out in dissatisfaction in Muyu's hand. Xiao Shui, I love you to death. Muyu wanted to kiss it fiercely. He slowly distinguished the memory that had been forcibly stuffed into his mind. Although these were so real, as if he had personally experienced them, there was a flaw in Xiao Shui's memories. Xiao Shui appeared in front of him in reality. Then Muyu could be sure that this memory of Xiao Shui was real, and the memory of Shi Dangtian being his master was fake. Most importantly, why did he have memories of him being a baby? He was just a baby who would remember things from his childhood so clearly, but he could clearly remember the memories from when he was 1 to 5 years old. This was too abnormal. What kind of thing is playing tricks here? It actually implanted fake memories in me? Muyu stood up. The moment those memories entered his mind, he almost believed that everything from Luo Chen Mountain was a dream. He almost mixed up the dream and reality, because from his perspective, he had personally experienced those new memories. It was hard for him to distinguish what was real. Muyu stood up and looked at Luo Shang and the others who were looking at him in shock. He didn't pay any more attention to them. His gaze landed on the pale face of Tian Ran. Tian Ran's eyes were closed, and there was no sign of life. This innocent girl that he liked both in reality and in the dream was now lying there quietly. He saw a deep wound on Shi Dangtian's face. He respected and hated Shi Dangtian. In the new memories, Shi Dangtian turned around and became his master. But in reality, Shi Dangtian was the main culprit that caused him to be unable to leave the second layer of heaven. He saw Feng Haochen lying on the ground peacefully. There was not a single wound on his body, but there was no sign of life. The person he respected the most in the real world had lied to him in his new memories. The completely opposite memories were tormenting him, making him unable to face Shi Dangtian and Feng Haochen. He was slightly angry. Why did Tian Ran have to die in his dream? Who was it that had such a bad taste to turn his master and his enemy upside down? The two memories in his mind had changed his basic worldview. Even if Muyu could tell what was real and what was fake at this moment, he would feel very uncomfortable for the rest of his life if these memories didn't disappear. I never thought that the beautiful dream I created would be seen through by a spirit beast. Feng Haochen suddenly opened his eyes and stood up. He smiled at little Shui, who was in Muyu's arms. Little Shui looked at Feng Haochen in confusion and said, "Yeah, you're not human? No, your existence is the same as mine. Who are you?" "Same as you. You can't guess my identity. I can't implant you into the dream I created. We are always bound by the laws of heaven and earth. We are outside of the 5 elements. Existences like us have an indescribable power that restricts each other. Isn't that right?" Feng Haochen said with a smile. "What are you? You are not allowed to appear in my master's image." Muyu's shadow clone sword was already out of its sheath. Then what about this person? Ku Mu's figure slowly appeared. He looked at Muyu kindly. "Why did you do this? Why did you implant fake memories in me?" Muyu asked angrily. "Because to destroy a person's will, you don't need to rely on cultivation. You only need to use memories." Feng Haochen waved his hand. The surrounding scene suddenly changed. Ku Mu and the others disappeared. The light dimmed. Muyu appeared in a new place. Birds chirped and flowers bloomed. The grass was long and the orioles were flying. It was a scene of vitality. The barren place had disappeared. Only Muyu and Feng Haochen were left. A stone table appeared in front of Muyu. Beside the stone table was an old banyan tree. Feng Haochen was sitting on a chair behind the stone table. There was a pot of tea on the stone table. "Have a seat." Feng Haochen gestured for Muyu to sit. Muyu did not move. He said coldly, "Why don't you show your true face?" Feng Haochen smiled. He stroked his white beard and took a sip of tea. He said slowly, "What is my true face? I don't have any face in this world. Everything is my face. I think this person is the most important in your heart. Maybe it's easier to communicate with you in his image." "Why did you do this?" Muyu tried to separate the memories of the past 15 years. He focused on the memories of the past 2 years. Feng Haochen smiled. I want to talk to you. Then erase the memories that don't belong to me. Then we can talk, Muyu said. What memories? Feng Haochen's wise eyes flashed with a strange light. He looked at Muyu peacefully. It's... Muyu paused. He frowned. The memories that were stuffed into his mind suddenly disappeared into thin air. His memories were intact, no more, no less. In his memories, he started from Luo Chun Mountain. He walked out of Mayun Mountain Range, explored the 3 continents, and entered the second heaven through Dan Cauldron's sect. The memory of Shi Dengtian as his master suddenly disappeared. He still remembered this memory. It was just that the main character of the memory was no longer him. It was as if he was just a bystander who saw another person's life. He remembered these lives, but these lives did not belong to him. Have a seat. Feng Haochen gestured again. Muyu stared at Feng Haochen for a while. This wise old man's actions were no different from his master's. For a moment, he even suspected that this was his real master. In his memories, Feng Haochen did not harm him. Those fake memories had long disappeared from Muyu's mind. Muyu hesitated for a moment. In the end, he sat down. The other party's methods were so brilliant. If he wanted to kill him, it would be easy. There was no need to play any tricks. He wanted to see how he would explain. You have a lot of questions. Ask. Feng Haochen poured a cup of tea for Muyu and pushed the teacup in front of Muyu. Who are you? Muyu did not touch the slightly steaming hot tea. He originally wanted to ask what he was, but the other party was more like a human with emotions and not a demonic beast. Feng Haochen pondered for a while, as if thinking about how to explain to Muyu. Then, he said, in the words of you humans, I am called Phantom. I can create illusions of all things in the world. I can see through all the mundane things in the world. I can control all the imprints in the world. I can make people unable to distinguish between reality and dreams. I can make people immerse in different dreams. I can make anyone use their memories to create dreams. Can you understand this explanation? Muyu thought for a while. He did not have any knowledge about Phantom in his mind, whether it was his master, the dead tree, or the records of the Danding sect. There was no record of Phantom. The other party's explanation seemed easy to understand, but it was still very abstract for Muyu. In short, I can make a person unable to distinguish between reality and dreams. I will create some fictitious memories and implant them in their minds according to my own preferences. I like to invert that person's original memories, shaping what they think is a good person into a bad person, and then shaping the bad person into a good person. Phantom laughed. Muyu suddenly understood that this was just Phantom's bad taste. He had a feud with Shi Dengtian in reality, but Phantom had created a memory of Shi Dengtian becoming Muyu's master to play with him. Feng Haochen was his master, but Phantom had turned him into an evil Phantom master. Why did you find me? Although Muyu was very angry at what Phantom had done, he had to admit that Phantom had a powerful means. If Muyu did not wake up from the 2 completely different memories in time and distinguish between reality and illusion, he was very likely to collapse. Phantom shook his head. It was you who came to me. Have you forgotten? Muyu was startled. Could it be that he had accidentally broken into the Phantom's territory? This Phantom was also a kind of monster beast in the second heavenly layer, but why was he so familiar with the human world? Phantom saw Muyu's doubts. He stared at Muyu with deep meaning. I don't like humans to disturb me, so I want to punish you. But you're not an ordinary human. Consider this my test for you. Test. Muyu didn't understand what this test was about. His control of power? His ability to see through dreams? His state of mind? His will? The Phantom smiled meaningfully. All dreams are not born out of thin air. Dreams are born from the heart and transformed from reality. The dreams I create depend on your reality. Although sometimes they are completely opposite from reality, this is the power of dreams. If you can't distinguish between reality and dreams, you will lose yourself without me doing anything. You will be confused, and you will sink forever, unable to extricate yourself. Muyu's heart was filled with horror. The power of dreams was so terrible. If it weren't for the appearance of little Shuai, he might have really been tormented by his 2 different views on life. I can see through a person's heart, simulate his future path according to his memories, and calculate his future fate. Unfortunately, how can fate be so easy to calculate? You don't seem to like the dream I arranged for you. Only a ghost would like it. Muyu scolded. The dream I arranged for you is not groundless. It is closely related to your future. Why don't you taste the tea I gave you? It's still warm. It's a pity that it's cold. The teacup on the table was simple and fresh. The tea was fragrant, making people feel relaxed and happy. After hesitating for a long time, Muyu picked up the teacup and took a sip. When the warm tea entered his mouth, it refreshed his heart and mind. There was a fragrance in the bitterness and endless aftertaste. Even Muyu, who didn't know much about tea, felt that this was a good cup of tea. I know the purpose of you coming here. I see a trace of extraordinariness in your life. You want to treat the person sitting in front of you with the underworld grass. He really deserves to be treated. He may change your life in the future. Who knows? There's no harm in giving it to you. It's time for me to leave. Who said that dreams must be fake? People pay too much attention to reality. Why can't dreams replace reality? Perhaps dreams are a kind of reality. No one can say for sure what will happen in the future. You have to control your power. Don't let your power control you. Maybe what I see will be changed too. The illusory voice gradually quieted down, leaving Muyu sitting alone on a rock. In front of him was the entrance to the valley. He didn't know when he had left the valley. The sky was still hazy, but the east was showing the dawn. Muyu carefully recalled the words of the phantom. What was he warning Muyu about? Was it about his future? Or was it warning him to be careful with his power? Muyu remembered the power he had in his dream. The powerful power almost made him lose his will. The power controlled him, and he didn't control the power. But it was just a dream after all. Muyu looked down at the black and white grass in his hand. The two leaves, one black and one white, were intertwined with each other. The death aura and vitality were in a delicate balance. This was the underworld grass. Legend had it that it grew at the border between the underworld and the world of life. It could communicate with the afterlife and had the effect of reviving the dead. Muyu left the valley and gradually disappeared into the distance. What he didn't know was that two pairs of eyes were watching him from the sky. Feng Haochen, who was transformed by the phantom, stood in the sky, watching Muyu leave. Then, a figure suddenly appeared beside him. It was a man in blue. He came so suddenly, but it seemed that he had been standing there for a long time. Don't appear in the image of Jianing in the future, the man in blue said softly. The phantom's figure turned into a hazy cloud, and floated there. Its voice was very ethereal, as if it had passed through the vast rivers and mountains. It said with a hint of ridicule, "Phantom Rain, don't you like to see Jianing in the wind?" Phantom Rain smiled. Jianing had set up a big game of chess. Unfortunately, the price was too high. I can only help him this much. If I do more, I'm afraid it won't be good. Phantom Rain looked at the sky. There were purple lights flashing faintly in the thousands of miles of sky. Then how will Muyu leave the second layer of heaven? The phantom asked. You used dreams to deduce his fate. Didn't you see this point? Phantom Rain said. After all, Jianing and Chun Feng have chosen him. If I could deduce it, we wouldn't be here. The phantom said leisurely. Let's go. We can't help him anymore. In fact, I have always been against Jian Ying's choice. Now that I think about it, his choice is much better than ours. Phantom Rain's figure gradually faded and disappeared into the sky. Chapter 243. Bang! The huge golden-armored elephant fell to the ground, smashing a patch of green wood and raising a cloud of dust. Even the earth seemed to tremble. Little Handsome struggled to crawl out from the golden-armored elephant's mouth, cursing as he went to find a place to take a bath. Muyu stared at the golden-armored elephant's demon soul in a daze. Being able to obtain a demon soul should be a very happy thing, but Muyu was frowning instead. He had already obtained the netherworld grass and 9 chi soul cleansing flower. Counting the days, more than a month has passed. There are only 4 days left until the deadline, but Muyu still hasn't met a single person, nor has he thought of any way to leave the second celestial layer. His luck seems to have come to an end. At this moment, even if he were to obtain more demon souls, it would be of no use. Let's go. I'll give you the demon soul as a snack. Muyu threw the demon soul back to Little Handsome. Little Handsome had just finished cleaning his body, so he didn't hold back and threw the demon soul into his mouth. You said that dozens of people came to the second celestial layer. Why haven't we met a single one in the past few days? Little Handsome asked with a lisp. Regarding leaving the second celestial layer, Little Handsome didn't care at first. However, after Muyu told him that if he didn't leave the second celestial layer, he wouldn't be able to eat roast duck and chicken drumsticks anymore. There are too many powerful demon beasts in the second celestial layer, but the spiritual energy here is rich. Perhaps everyone is hiding to cultivate. Muyu speculated. Many people didn't come to the second celestial layer with a purpose. Some people came here purely to cultivate. Cultivating here is much more beneficial than cultivating in the third celestial layer. If they chose to cultivate, then it's normal that Muyu couldn't find them. Actually, if we can do something earth-shattering, we might be able to attract some people's attention. Little Handsome said, for example, creating a big explosion. Boom! Just as Little Handsome's voice fell, a deafening sound came from the east. The earth really trembled for a moment, and then dense cracks covered the entire wasteland, startling the demon beasts that were resting in the shade. Many demonic beasts looked towards the east of the wasteland in bewilderment. There was a soul-sucking aura that made them want to submit. In the east, a beam of colorful light shot up into the sky, shattering the white clouds in the sky. Immediately after, a torrential chi wave spread out from the pillar of light. The air seemed to have started to distort, and the majestic chi wave attacked the plants and demonic beasts. Many demonic beasts were torn to shreds by this chi wave before they could even react. Their broken limbs and bones were thrown outside along with the chi wave. Even the 100-year-old trees were turned into dust by the chi wave. Muyu and Little Shuai were also sent flying, but they were very far away from the light pillar. By the time the shock wave reached them, it was already much weaker. Muyu pulled out his shadow, splitting sword in time, and stabbed it into the ground. Soon, he regained his footing. He looked at the light pillar in the distance in astonishment. Spiritual chi radiated in all directions, and colorful lights filled the sky. It was as if a rare treasure had appeared. Little Commander, this explosion was caused by you? Muyu gulped. It can't be, right? Xiao Shuai's mouth was wide open as he stared ahead in disbelief. He was just joking. How could it be so easy to cause such a big explosion? Muyu and Xiao Shuai looked at each other and shouted happily. What are you waiting for? Such a big commotion will definitely attract a lot of people. Take it easy. Be careful not to step on dog poop. Squeak. Muyu lifted his foot and looked at the disgusting pile. He rolled his eyes at Xiao Shuai and said, Don't jinx it. You've been muted. The man and the beast flew toward the explosion site without stopping. It didn't matter if a rare treasure had appeared or not. What Muyu wanted to see the most now was a fresh head. Oh no, a living person. As long as it was a human, it would be fine. First, he had to solve the matter of the teleportation jade pendant. Then, he would see if those people could give him a ride and leave the second heaven. On the cliff, Gue Xianyue looked at the explosion in front of him. The colorful light reflected in his eyes, but looked so cold. Has it finally appeared? Compared to the Gue Xianyue of the Moyun mountain range, he had changed his appearance. His every move exuded a cold air. Behind him stood 4 other disciples of the Gate of Hell, 3 men and 1 woman. All of them looked pale and bloodless. We were too careless. We didn't expect to cause such a big commotion. I'm afraid it will attract the attention of other disciples, the woman from the Gate of Hell said softly. Her name was Gue Hongyu. Her cultivation had reached the 7th heaven of the nascent soul realm. She was the person with the highest cultivation besides Gue Xianyue. Gue Xianyue sneered. They are secondary. The demon clan is the biggest obstacle. Let's follow the plan. Yes. The three disciples of the gate of hell, behind him, disappeared from the cliff in the blink of an eye. The lake was misty, and the crystal-clear blue water rippled slightly. The sun shone on the surface of the lake, making it sparkle. At the center of the lake was a mountain peak. Its majesty could be seen from afar. The colorful pillars on the mountain peak shot into the sky. The colorful light made the entire lake even more gorgeous. It was like a paradise on earth. Muyu tried to fly over, but an invisible barrier wrapped around the lake and bounced him away. He walked around the lake and touched the barrier with his hand to see if there was an opening to enter. However, at this moment, a pleasant sound of a zither rang in Muyu's ears. The sound was so beautiful, like the music of the heavens, melodious and distant. However, Muyu's mind suddenly tensed up. He tapped his feet lightly, and his body swayed, dodging a few sharp sound blades. Ro-Anna. Muyu rolled his eyes. He came here excitedly to find someone, but he didn't expect the first person he saw to be Ro-Anna, the woman from the Jade sect who had a grudge with him. Ro-Anna stroked the zither strings with her left hand. Her face showed a trace of hatred. I said that I would chop off your left hand the next time I see you. Last time in Misty Breath City, Yu Ming had caused a ruckus at the alchemy test held by the Pill Cauldron sect. When Muyu was chasing Mu Yu Ming, he met Ro-Anna. Originally, he had helped Ro-Anna with good intentions, but he realized that his hand was hugging her soft place. Therefore, Ro-Anna had always hated Muyu. Yeah, wasn't it your right hand last time? Why did it become your left hand? Little Shuai asked curiously. Is it my right hand? I don't do that kind of thing often. How can I remember my left hand and right hand? Muyu spread his hands and blinked his eyes, saying somewhat innocently, You're courting death. Ro-Anna raised the zither strings again in exasperation. The earth-shattering sound blades slashed at Muyu. Stop, stop, stop. Muyu shouted as he dodged. Ro-Anna's cultivation had improved a lot in the past 2 years. Her cultivation had already reached the 5th firmament of the nascent soul stage. Today, she was attracted by the huge commotion. She did not expect to see Muyu wandering around the lake as soon as she arrived. Thinking of how Muyu had taken advantage of her, she was furious. She did not even greet him and directly used the zither strings to serve him. I'll stop after I chop off your left hand. Ro-Anna gritted her teeth. It's the right hand, the right hand. Little Shuai reminded her at an inappropriate time. Shut up. I already said that you've been muted. Muyu scolded. Although Ro-Anna's cultivation had improved greatly, she still could not pose a threat to Muyu. Muyu had rich experience in fighting with others. He had used the strength of the Jindan period to break through the floating immortal island where nascent soul stage geniuses gathered. In his eyes, Ro-Anna was not worth mentioning. If you don't stop, my left hand and right hand will not be polite to you. Muyu was a gentleman who did not fight with women. In addition, he still had to ask Ro-Anna about the teleportation jade pendant later. Therefore, he endured and did not fight back. Go ahead and try. Ro-Anna snorted. The zither strings in her hands were still jingling. Muyu felt aggrieved. Just as he was about to capture Ro-Anna and interrogate her, Ro-Anna's zither music suddenly stopped. There was another person beside her. That person was dressed in yellow. She was as beautiful as a fairy and exuded a sacred aura. That's enough, Anna. Don't be rude. Fairy Ming Xen floated over and placed a hand on Ro-Anna's shoulder to stop her. Fairy Ming Xen was truly stunning. Her indifferent aura was far from Ro-Anna's. Muyu recalled that his cheap second senior brother Luo Shang seemed to have a personal grudge against Fairy Ming Xen. He had always been curious about how Fairy Ming Xen, who was revered as a fairy by the world, had offended Luo Shang. You must be the famous junior brother Muyu of the Pill Cauldron sect. I'm the Jade sect's Ming Xen. Fairy Ming Xen nodded slightly at Muyu. Her every frown and smile was so natural, giving people a good impression of her. The one who had a grudge against Ming Xen was Luo Shang, not him. He immediately smiled and said, I don't know about your famous name, but I'm definitely Muyu. I didn't expect fellow Muyu to be here. I heard that Muyu has received the true teachings of Senior Withered Tree Evergreen. He was even able to fuse with the pill cauldron sect's incomplete rank 7 pill that no one had succeeded in 100 years. Such talent is truly unparalleled in the world. Fairy Meng Xian's words were so sincere. There was no hint of hypocrisy or pretentiousness. Her words were very pleasant to the ears. Fairy Meng Xian is too kind. Fusing with the incomplete pill was just a fluke, Muyu said. He didn't know that his actions in the Pill Cauldron sect had already been known by the cultivation world of the 3 continents. There were many outer sect disciples from other sects who came to learn alchemy in the Pill Cauldron sect. Muyu had caused such a huge commotion in the Pill Cauldron sect. It was impossible for him to not know about it. To be able to fuse with an incomplete rank 7 pill, even the Pill Cauldron sect's sect master, Taoist Yundan, couldn't do it. Just this point alone was enough to attract the attention of many people. Fellow Muyu is too modest. How can fusing with an incomplete pill be explained by a fluke? Right at this moment, another voice came from afar. A young man in green clothes landed on a rock by the lake. This man was handsome and elegant. His green clothes fluttered in the wind, and there was a green three-eyed condor circling around him. Who are you? Muyu looked at the three-eyed condor. This condor was very arrogant and was one of the best rank 4 demonic beasts. Why would it follow this man in front of him? The man slapped his forehead and said with an apologetic smile, I'm sorry. I'm Xinggao from the Earth Emperor sect. Greetings to Fairy Meng Xian, Fairy Ro Anna, and fellow Muyu. The people of the Earth Emperor sect were famous for taming demonic beasts. The true battle strength of each of their disciples was inseparable from the demonic beasts. Muyu thought for a moment and asked, Xinggao? You can't be Kai Lai's brother, right? Xinggao? Xinggao cupped his hands and said with a smile, That's right. My brother is Kai Lai. He told me many things about you. Chapter 244. With Fairy Meng Xian and Xinggao here, Ro Anna could only suppress her resentment towards Muyu for the time being. Muyu shrugged his shoulders. This girl was too vengeful. Not long ago, he had touched her soft breasts. It wasn't on purpose, so it was pointless for her to keep thinking about it. So no one knows what's at the center of the lake, right? After exchanging pleasantries, Muyu changed the topic to the colorful pillar of light at the center of the lake. That pillar of light was extremely majestic. No one knew what it was. As the ancients say, when a treasure appears, the heavens and earth will shake. Could it be that a rare treasure has appeared at the center of the lake? Ro Anna glared at Muyu and expressed her opinion first. Xinggao shook his head. No, the demonic chi in the lake is overwhelming. My three-eyed condor's mind is rippling, and it has lost its usual vigor. That's why I speculate that a powerful demonic beast is about to be born. Have you heard of the legend of the demonic beast king? Legend of the demonic beast king? Muyu's heart skipped a beat. Of the 10 demonic beast kings he knew, the only one he knew was the white ape demonic beast king. The white ape demonic beast king was the target of the people from the gate of hell. They seemed to want to use the 9 formations to subdue the demonic beast king. Muyu had dealt with the white ape demonic beast king's inner core with Xiao Shui in the underground palace. In the end, he had discovered the relationship between Xiao Shui and the demonic beasts. Could it be that the pillar of light at the center of the lake was related to the demonic beast king? It's said that one of the 10 demonic beast kings, the white ape demonic beast king, was sealed somewhere in the 2nd layer of heaven. Could it be here? However, this has always been a legend. I'm afraid we can't be sure. Fairy Meng Xian said elegantly. Xinggao shook his head. This isn't a baseless rumor. The 2nd layer of heaven was once the demonic beast world. However, a few hundred years ago, the demonic beasts violated the heavens and broke the laws of the 2nd layer of heaven. Thus, they were destroyed. Although the 3rd layer of heaven demonic beasts don't appear in front of humans, they didn't completely disappear. The 10 demonic beast kings disappeared 1,000 years ago. No one knows where they are. The white ape demonic beast king's exact location is in the 2nd layer of heaven. What does violating the heavens mean? What had destroyed the demon race? Didn't they destroy the human race? Muyu asked in confusion. No one knows what the illusory heavenly Tao is. How the demon race went extinct is also a mystery to us. The demonic aura in the center of the lake is so strong. My three-eyed condor is telling me that their king is about to descend. Xingao stroked the three-eyed condor's soft feathers. Three-eyed vulture appeared to be somewhat restless, his gaze never leaving the center of the lake. He's right. The aura at the center of the lake is the same as the aura of the white ape demon king's inner core in the underground palace. However, now that the white ape demon king has lost its core, it is no different from an ordinary demon beast. It has no combat power. Xiao Shui whispered into Muyu's ear. When Muyu heard little Shuai's words, he suddenly thought of something. If Xiao Shui came for the white ape demon king, then wouldn't she also appear here? She must have stolen the demon king's inner core from Muyu to allow the white ape demon king to recover its strength. What would happen to the white ape demon king after it recovered its strength? Muyu looked around. Perhaps Xiao Shui was spying on them from somewhere nearby, preparing to take the opportunity to rescue the demon king, who had no combat power. What are you looking around for? Anna coldly snorted. Muyu was simply annoyed by this woman. Why did she keep staring at him? He said, I have a question. If I lose the teleportation jade pendant, is there any way to leave the second layer of heaven? Xingao said, the teleportation jade pendant cannot be lost. Once it is lost, there is no way to leave. A teleportation jade pendant can only carry one nascent soul cultivator. However, demon beasts are not affected. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to bring three-eyed condor in, and you wouldn't have been able to bring your cute little squirrel in. Bah, you're the cute little squirrel. Little Shui glared at Xingao fiercely before burrowing back into Muyu's arms. When others called it a cute little squirrel, it seemed to be very unhappy. It always felt that the word handsome came first, and calling it cute was an insult to it. Muyu's heart sank again. He originally thought that after he found them, he might be able to get them to give him a ride. However, a teleportation jade pendant couldn't teleport two people. This was a headache. No wonder Shi Mingwei thought that he would definitely die. Presumably, he already knew this. Why are you asking this question? You didn't lose the teleportation jade pendant, did you? Anna mocked. I'm just asking. My teleportation jade pendant is fine. Muyu didn't intend to give this girl a chance to hit him when he was down. The teleportation jade pendants were all produced by the Pill Cauldron sect. Muyu didn't expect that others would have extra teleportation jade pendants. I just checked. This lake has a mysterious power preventing us from entering. Does anyone have a way to get rid of it? Xingao asked. Everyone looked at each other. Before they gathered, everyone had already tried to enter the peak in the center of the lake. Unfortunately, they all failed. It was only when they walked along the lake that they met each other. At this time, there was a sound of something breaking through the air. A young man floated over and landed in front of everyone. This person's face was cold, as if it had been carved by a knife. He had sharp edges and slender eyebrows. He cupped his hands towards everyone and said, Greetings, fellow Taoists. Brother Xingao and the two fairies, how have you been? Huh, Brothers Wufengjian, you're here too. Xingao cupped his hands and said. Fairy Ming Xian and Anna also knew this person. They also politely greeted him. Only Muyu shrugged indifferently. He didn't know this person. This is... Zhuofengjian looked at Muyu and asked with a smile. Come, let me introduce you. This is the famous Zhuofengjian from the Sword Cleansing Valley. Zhuofengjian's sword in his left hand is awe-inspiring. His sword moves have reached perfection. This is fellow Taoist Muyu from the Pill Cauldron sect. Fellow Taoist Muyu is also very amazing. He is the only disciple of Senior Withered Tree Evergreen. At Floating Immortal Island, he once... Xingao suddenly stopped. He felt that he had gone too far because the surrounding air had instantly turned cold. A cold longsword was pointed at Muyu. The sword light was like water, suffused with a cold light, causing people to involuntarily shiver. You are the murderer who killed my two junior brothers, Fast Sword and Slow Sword. Muyu? Zhuo Fengjian's voice was as cold as the sword in his left hand. When Muyu heard about fast sword and slow sword, he was slightly surprised. Only then did he remember that he had killed this so-called peerless duo. Fast sword and slow sword were two genius swordsmen of the Sword Cleansing Valley. The two of them together were almost invincible among the younger generation of the Sword Cleansing Valley. They also made a name for themselves in the cultivation world. Who would have thought that they would both die under Mu Yu's sword at floating Immortal Island? Mu Yu was not afraid. He had a clear conscience about what happened back then. The other party coveted the dragon vines on his body. They besieged Mu Yu, who was still in the gold core stage, with their nascent soul stage cultivation. Being killed by Mu Yu, it could only be said that their skills were inferior and they deserved it. What? Do you plan to avenge them? Mu Yu lightly said, My two junior brothers were killed by you. Naturally, you have to pay the price. Zhuo Fengjian's killing intent was awe-inspiring. Mu Yu slightly smiled. When I was in the Jindan period, I killed your Sword Cleansing Valley's peerless duo. Now that I am in the nascent soul stage, I don't mind killing one more. When Mu Yu's words came out, everyone's face slightly changed. They could not help but sigh in their hearts that Mu Yu was too arrogant. Zhuo Fengjian's fame was more frightening than the peerless duo. He held a sword in his left hand. When he was 15 years old, he had already made a name for himself in the cultivation world. He once fought against 12 evil tyrants from Lin and I Chio alone. Lin and I Chio was a famous gathering place for villains in the cultivation world. Each of them was in the 9th heavenly layer of the nascent soul stage. Countless self-cultivators died in their hands. When Zhuo Fengjian just stepped into the first heavenly layer of the nascent soul stage, he defeated 12 9th heavenly layer nascent soul stage tyrants with one sword, establishing his position in the younger generation. Now that Zhuo Fengjian had reached the 9th heavenly layer of the nascent soul stage, his left sword had never been defeated. It was very likely that he could fight against an out-of-body stage cultivator. No one dared to underestimate his strength. Although Mu Yu killed the fast sword and slow sword of the nascent soul stage when he was in the Jindan period, everyone guessed that Deadwood must have secretly helped him. Therefore, his killing of the peerless duo didn't prove anything. The most important thing was that Mu Yu came from the Danding sect. The Danding sect gave people the impression that they were bookworms who only knew how to refine pills and had no fighting strength. Mu Yu became famous recently because he fused an incomplete level 7 pill. To be able to fuse a level 7 pill, one must be a genius. Even so, in everyone's general impression, the disciples of the Danding school were cultivators with low fighting strength. Apart from their superb alchemy skills, it was impossible for them to fight with these famous young geniuses. What a big tone, Zhuo Fengjian snorted. There had never been a nascent soul stage cultivator who dared to provoke him like this. Mu Yu's words had undoubtedly angered him. Then I would like to experience your swordsmanship. Xing Gao quickly came out to smooth things over and said, Both of you, please don't fight. Both of you are heavenly talents in your respective fields. Brother Zhuo Fengjian's left sword is famous all over the world. His swordsmanship is superb, and no one dares to underestimate his edge. It is truly admirable. Brother Mu Yu is a rare genius of the Danding sect. To be able to fuse an incomplete level 7 pill is truly rare. If the two of you fight, it will be biased. Brother Zhuo Fengjian will also be suspected of bullying the weak. Xing Gao had long believed that Mu Yu and his brother Kai Lai were the same. They only knew how to refine pills, and their ability to survive in the outside world was too weak. They were simply not a match for the famous Zhuo Fengjian. Furthermore, alchemists were people that everyone wanted to curry favor with. With Mu Yu's achievements, his future would definitely be limitless. At this moment, he naturally wanted to help Mu Yu. His words were also to remind Mu Yu that Zhuo Fengjian was a very strong opponent. He wanted Mu Yu to back off. But I also don't like people pointing a sword at me. Others thought that Mu Yu only knew how to refine pills after following Deadwood Evergreen. Who would have thought that his true identity was the disciple of true God, Luke of the 3rd layer? The true God used 9 heavenly swords to destroy Yumon's attack and suppressed him. His swordsmanship was recognized as the world's #1. As the disciple of Sword Shadow Chunfeng, how could Mu Yu's swordsmanship be afraid of Zhuofengjian? How laughable. Brother Xingao is right. Brother Zhuofengjian, why don't you give me and Brother Xingao some face and put away your sword? We are all in the second layer of heaven now. Let's talk after we get out. Fairy Meng Xin said. Since Fairy Meng Xin and Brother Xingao are pleading for you, I will let you go. You better hope that you don't meet me alone one day. Otherwise, I don't care if you are a genius. Many geniuses have died under my sword. I don't care if you are a pill refiner. Zhuofengjian's left palm moved slightly, and the sword disappeared from his hand. Seeing that Zhuofengjian had stopped, Roanna's face flashed with disappointment. She also knew of Zhuofengjian's reputation. She really hoped that Mu Yu would be taught a lesson by Zhuofengjian so that she could vent her anger. I'm also looking forward to that day. Let's see if Zhuofengjian's reputation is undeserved. It wouldn't be good if he smashed his reputation in the hands of a pill refiner. Mu Yu didn't like people who thought they were infallible. Many times, trouble came to him for no reason, and he had no choice but to deal with it. However, he wasn't a soft persimmon that was easy to bully. If he could still tolerate being pointed at his nose, it wouldn't make sense. Zhuofengjian still wanted to say something, but at that moment, the lake in front of him suddenly shook violently again. It was as if something in the air had shattered. Fragments of spiritual power fell from the sky above the lake, creating ripples on the ground. Chapter 245. The mountain peak in the center of the lake towered into the clouds, and the peak could not be seen from afar. At this moment, the sky was still filled with multicolored light. It was exceptionally gorgeous, and the rainbow light overflowed from the top of the mountain. It was quite spectacular. The few of them stopped at the foot of the mountain. They wanted to fly up directly, but there was a restriction on the top of the mountain that prevented them from using swordkinesis flight. They had no choice but to walk up the mountain. This mountain was no different from an ordinary mountain. The higher they went, the more pressure they felt on their bodies. It was as if they were carrying 1,000 kilograms of stone. It was very strenuous. What's going on? Roanna frowned. Among the group, Roanna's cultivation level was not the lowest. Mu Yu was only at the third firmament of the nascent soul realm. His cultivation level was at the bottom, but he did not show any signs of being unable to bear it. As for Roanna, it was somewhat strenuous. Fairy Meng Xin approached Roanna and used her spiritual power to help her share some of the pressure. Xingao also approached Mu Yu. In his opinion, Mu Yu needed help the most in such a situation, so he planned to help Mu Yu. Thank you. Mu Yu thanked him and did not refuse. However, Zhuofengjian sneered in front of him. Clearly, he was provoking Mu Yu. In his opinion, it was already very laughable that Mu Yu needed help from others. He was even more certain that Slow Sword and Fast Sword had died at Mu Yu's hands because of luck. At this moment, the ground they were standing on rapidly protruded. Everyone's expression changed as they immediately circled around. At this moment, they could not fly or do anything. An earth pillar suddenly emerged from the ground and brought them high into the sky. Then the earth pillar stopped rising. It's a little strange. Xingao walked to the edge of the earth pillar and looked down. They were about 100 meters above the ground. Normally, they could jump down directly, but now, if they wanted to fly, there would be gravity on them, making it impossible for them to fly. If they jumped down, they would definitely fall miserably. Creating earth pillars should be an ability that only Earth Yaman has. Why would it appear here? Zhuofengjian squatted down and touched the rock under his feet, but he didn't feel anything strange. The ordinary rock had truly trapped them. Someone doesn't want us to go up the mountain. Mu Yu surveyed the surroundings. Formation patterns appeared and disappeared in an extremely orderly manner. He quickly understood that this was a kind of illusory formation, which was specially used to create trouble for those who went up the mountain. What do we do now? If you can't fly down, do you want to climb down? Roanna asked. Everyone thought of a way. They couldn't fly now, but they could use the flying swords on their bodies to stab horizontally into the earth pillar and then go down step by step. Let's go down. Zhou Fengjian's body flashed, and the flying sword in his hand pierced into the earth pillar. His whole body hung in the air as he took out another flying sword and pierced into the earth pillar below. Step by step, he descended. Just as everyone was preparing to head down, Xing Gao discovered that Mu Yu did not make any movements. Mu Yu, are you not planning to go down? Xing Gao asked curiously. Being trapped in midair was not a good sign. Why are you going down? If you go down, you'll only fall back down here. Mu Yu walked to the edge of the earth pillar and knocked on the void in front of him. A ripple appeared in the void, as if his hand had touched a calm water surface. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly, and he said, "We don't need to go down. Just go straight ahead." Are you an idiot? If you go straight ahead, won't you fall down? Zhou Fengjian was already halfway down, and he said bluntly. Mu Yu ignored him and took a step forward. He did not fall down. Instead, he disappeared in front of everyone's astonished gazes. It was as if there was an illusory curtain in front of them, and Mu Yu had already reached the other side of the curtain. If you want to go down, just go down. You'll stop at the same place after climbing down for half a day. Mu Yu's voice came from the front. The others were somewhat surprised. Not everyone had learned formations before, and these people knew nothing about formations. Only Mu Yu noticed the abnormality of this earth pillar. Xing Gao shrugged and chose to believe in Mu Yu. He carefully took a step forward and then disappeared in front of Mu Yu. Meng Xian and Ro Anna did not hesitate any longer and hurriedly followed. After taking a step, they unexpectedly found that they were still standing on the hillside, and everything behind them was normal. There was no earth pillar like before. Zhou Fengjian found that the others had disappeared, and he was furious. He climbed up from below, and then stepped forward to catch up with Mu Yu and the others. How did Taoist Mu Yu find out? Fairy Meng Xian looked at Mu Yu a few more times. Formations? Haven't you learned them before? This is the most basic illusion formation. What you see is not necessarily true. It will blind your eyes. Mu Yu explained briefly, and then continued to walk forward. This kind of formation was relatively easy to break. It created an illusion that there was a bottomless abyss in front of them, and they could only shrink back. When normal people encountered this situation, they would think of climbing down. However, no matter how they climbed, they would not be able to reach the bottom. This was the power of an illusion formation. It's really admirable that Brother Mu Yu has such a thorough understanding of array formations. To be honest, the only people in the cultivation world who are familiar with formations are people from the formation faction. The rest of us don't know anything about formations. I didn't think that Taoist Mu Yu not only knows how to refine pills, but also knows formations. You're really amazing. Xing Gao was sincerely convinced. The formation faction was a sect that specialized in formations, and their disciples were all very good at all kinds of formations. They entered the Tao through formations, and their strength was very strong. Mu Yu had only occasionally heard about the formation faction from Tian Ran, and he did not know the specifics. Zhou Fengjian snorted and said, "I was just lucky." Mu Yu curled his lips. He didn't want to waste words with this kind of person. People who said sour grapes lacked love. Mu Yu felt a bit of sympathy for this Zhou Fengjian. After climbing up the mountain for a while, they suddenly stopped. They gestured and then said, "We're still in the illusion formation. If we want to go up the mountain, we have to go right." Zhou Fengjian looked up the mountain and said suspiciously, "Are you trying to fool? There's no obstacle in front. Why do we have to turn? Go ahead." Mu Yu turned right without looking back. He really couldn't be bothered to explain to this kind of person. He and these people had just met by chance. If they believed him, they would follow him. If they didn't, they would go on their own. He didn't think it was a big deal. Xing Gao hesitated. In his opinion, they should go straight up the mountain. There didn't seem to be any formations here. However, he had just confirmed that Mu Yu was right. He didn't know much about formations, so he could only choose to believe Mu Yu. Therefore, he followed Mu Yu to the right. Fairy Meng Xian patted Roanna's shoulder and followed Mu Yu's footsteps. Roanna didn't say anything, but she looked at Mu Yu with less hatred and more curiosity. Zhou Fengjian didn't believe it. He chose to climb up alone. However, after climbing for a while, he found a strange problem. When people went up the mountain, their center of gravity would shift forward. However, the more up he went, the more he found that his center of gravity was obviously not right. There was another point. When they went up, the pressure should have increased. However, when he went up, he didn't feel any pressure. After walking for a while, he found that he had returned to the place where he separated from Mu Yu and the others. He understood that he should have gone up and came back. As expected, he had fallen into a maze. He was very resentful. In the end, he had no choice but to go in the direction Mu Yu had just gone. He rushed to the right and caught up with them after about a quarter of an hour. What a coincidence, you're here too. I thought you weren't going to take our path. Little Shuai lay on Mu Yu's shoulder and lazily wagged his big tail. He didn't hide his ridicule. Mu Yu held back his laughter. He thought that little Shuai was giving him face. At least he didn't dote on him for nothing. He faintly glanced at Zhuofengjian. Zhuofengjian was extremely angry. Being looked down upon by Mu Yu was one thing, but even a little beast dared to mock and ridicule him. If it was any other time, he would have already swung his sword. However, he had no other choice now. He could only suppress the anger in his heart. His face was a little hot, but he didn't say anything. This time, there shouldn't be any boring questions when I go down, right? Mu Yu turned again and actually walked down the mountain. Everyone looked at each other helplessly. Although they were full of doubts, they still followed. Zhuofengjian secretly remembered this. How could he not know that Mu Yu was mocking him? This was equivalent to giving him a slap in the face, making him blush. Mu Yu walked and stopped. The path up the mountain was like walking through a maze. It was impossible to go up the mountain based on the reference objects around him. If it wasn't for Mu Yu, who was proficient in formations, he might have been circled back down the mountain. The pressure of going up the mountain was already increasing, and they still didn't know how far they were from the top. Just when everyone was still thinking about what this seal was, the whole mountain suddenly shook violently. Immediately after, huge rocks rolled over from the front. The rocks under their feet also couldn't help but crack. Everyone, be careful! Everyone hurriedly took out their own transcendent artifacts. Immediately, sword rays and sound blades interweaved in the air. The powerful transcendent artifacts' power swept out, turning the falling rocks in front of them into fine powder. Boom! Once again, a loud sound exploded from the top of the mountain. It was like the roar of a thunder god, deafening. A huge amount of spiritual power rippled out, as if it wanted to tear the whole sky apart. This power was too huge, causing people's hearts to palpitate. Everyone looked at the strange changes in the sky with fear. They didn't understand what was happening at the top of the mountain. Whoosh, whoosh. However, at this moment, countless sounds of breaking through the air suddenly came. Compared to the loud sound at the top of the mountain, these sounds of breaking through the air were even more alarming. Everyone was on guard. They looked forward, wanting to know what it was that could make such a sharp sound. Are these demonic beasts? Rohanna suddenly shouted. Countless demonic beasts rushed over from all directions. They were all very ferocious high-level demonic beasts. Their strength was not inferior to that of a nascent soul stage cultivator. Everyone had encountered countless demonic beasts in the second layer of heaven, so they weren't too surprised to see demonic beasts here. Everyone revealed a dignified expression. The transcendent artifacts in their hands also responded to the sound, preparing to fight these demonic beasts. However, what made them even more surprised was that when the demonic beasts jumped over in midair, they had already transformed into human forms. Chapter 246. Countless demonic beasts pounced towards Mu Yu and the others, but in the air, they transformed into human forms and wrapped themselves in layers of clothes. The whole transformation process was very smooth, without any sense of sloppiness. It was Mu Yu's first time seeing so many living demonic beasts. It could be said that these demonic beasts had already shed their demonic beast characteristics and were no different from humans. Most of the tragic face spider scorpions he encountered in the Moyen mountain range had the appearance of demonic beasts and were not pure demonic beasts. However, The demonic beasts in front of him were clearly evolved demonic beasts. After all, the tragic face spider scorpions were controlled by Yu Meng and did not truly transform into humans. However, these demonic beasts in front of him were almost no different from humans. How can there be demonic beasts in the second heaven? Fairy Meng Xin furrowed her brows. It was said that second heavenly layer demonic beasts had long disappeared without a trace. On their way here, they had only seen countless demonic beasts, but not a single demonic beast. Now that so many of them had suddenly appeared, what was going on? They should be demonic beasts in the third heaven, but they found a way to enter the second heaven, Muyu said in a low voice. Fellow Muyu, how do you know? Xing Gao asked seriously. Although demonic beasts in the third heaven lived in seclusion, it did not mean that they were extinct. However, demonic beasts in the second heaven had really disappeared. Because I had a little conflict with a certain demonic beast in the second heaven a while ago, and I found out from her, Muyu said. After these demonic beasts surrounded the five of them, they did not choose to attack. Instead, they looked at them coldly. Then, one of the demonic beasts with wings on his back stood out and said arrogantly, "Humans, leave this place." His tone was full of contempt, as if he looked down on humans. The demonic beast behind him also had an inexplicable sense of superiority and did not put Mu Yu and the others in their eyes at all. Demonic beasts? Who do you think you are? Zhuofengjian was already very unhappy that Mu Yu looked down on him. Suddenly, a group of demonic beasts came looking for trouble. There was no need to think about how angry he was. With a thought, the flying sword in his hand had already unsheathed, and he could not wait to find trouble with these demonic beasts. After so many years, although this was the first time he had encountered a demon clan member, he did not panic. In his eyes, if the demon race remained in seclusion, they would not be able to withstand a single blow. The one with the wings on its back was the Wind Eagle, a powerful high-level demonic beast known for its speed. He stared at Zhuofengjian and didn't hide the threat in his tone at all. I don't know if you're a thing or not, but if you don't leave, I'll make you food for us. What arrogance! The left-edged sword had already been drawn. A cold light swept across, and the proud sword Qi directly attacked the Wind Eagle. The wings on the Wind Eagle's back were actually 2 meters long. The wings were pitch black like iron and incomparably hard. It blocked in front of its body and wrapped itself tightly. Ding! Zhuofengjian's sword Qi landed on the Wind Eagle's wings, but it was like an iron ox sinking into mud. It was completely unharmed. Charge! Wind Eagle bellowed. At the same time, all the demons pounced over. Cold light shone from their sharp claws and poisonous tails. Every move was incomparably ruthless. Muyu, be careful. After Xing Gao exhorted, he took out a jade ruler and swept away the densely packed poisonous stingers. The three-eyed condor on his shoulder roared, and in the blink of an eye, its body became incomparably huge. Its third divine eye flashed, and streaks of lightning struck towards the demon clan members. Fairy Meng Xin held the green flute in her hand, and beautiful flute music spread out. Instantly, a few demon clan members who could not react in time were sent flying. Roanna's Guzheng also rippled, resonating with Fairy Meng Xion's green flute. The pleasant music became a great killing power, and in a short period of time, a few demon clan members were engaged in battle. What's going on? Fighting just because of a disagreement? Muyu was extremely helpless. The moment the demon clan members appeared, they did not even have time to say a few words before attacking. They were truly a race that liked to fight. Muyu was sure that these demon clan members were related to Qiao Shui. Perhaps they were in cahoots with Qiao Shui. Perhaps he could find Qiao Shui's whereabouts from them. It had to be said that Zhuofengjian's reputation was not undeserved. His left sword was crafty and strange, and it was extraordinarily fast. All the demon clan members who approached him were heavily injured by him. Only Wind Eagle was on par with him. Wind Eagle was the strongest among these demon clan members. His wings were extremely hard and contained powerful spirit energy. Wherever he went, the wind would blow up, making it difficult for people to stand firm. Why do you think Xing Gao's three-eyed condor is not helping its own kind, but helping the human race instead? Little Commander asked, puzzled. The three-eyed condor was also a powerful rank 4 demon beast. Although it did not become a member of the demon clan, it could still understand basic words and distinguish the situation. Aren't you similar to a demon beast? You also like to eat demon beast, demon spirit so much. Muyu leaned to the side to dodge a sharp tail. This is different. I'm more handsome than a demon beast, okay? Moreover, I'm not a demon beast. Little Commander argued. Muyu did not know whether Little Commander was a demon beast or not. He felt that Little Commander was more like a demon clan member. However, the demon clan members could transform, while Little Commander only knew how to eat chicken legs. He did not seem like a demon clan member. Even humans kill each other, not to mention demonic beasts. The people of the earthly imperial sect have a special way of taming demonic beasts. They must have found a way to solve the possibility of the demonic beasts rebelling. Muyu had been dodging the attacks and did not attack the demonic beasts. The others did not suspect anything. They just thought that he was a bookworm who only knew how to refine pills and not fight. The appearance of the demon clan members here meant that the changes on the mountain had something to do with them. It was most likely because the white ape demon king had broken free from the seal. At this moment, he wanted to know where Xiao Shui was, not fight with these demon clan members. The demon clan members stopped them here because they did not want the humans to harm the white ape demon king. They must have sent some demon clan members to the mountain. Xiao Shui might be among them. These demon clan members are just stalling for time. We have to hurry to the mountain and stop the white ape demon king from escaping. Let's go, Muyu shouted. At the same time, he flicked his fingers like the wind, and a few cheap exploding pills fell among the demon clan members. 2 demon beasts were blown away. At the same time, he threw a few more exploding pills at the demon clan members. Then, he moved slightly and used his falling dust steps to the extreme. He turned into a phantom and rushed out of the encirclement of the demon clan members. When Zhuofeng Jian saw Muyu's figure disappear in front of him, he angrily cursed, "Trash, you only know how to run." But that was all he could do. The wind eagle's wing blades attracted his attention again. Fairy Meng Xian and Xinggao also knew that Muyu's words were right. But they were very surprised because they were surrounded by the demon clan members. They had almost no way to rush up. But Muyu, a weak alchemist, was actually so fast that he could ignore the demon clan members' obstruction. It was really amazing. The sky surged again, and the whole mountain shook again. Everyone felt that the pressure on their bodies seemed to have disappeared along with the shaking of the mountain. They were very happy in their hearts. They could actually fly. But Muyu's figure had already disappeared. The force that was hindering us from going up the mountain has disappeared. It means that the Demon King seal on the mountain is getting weaker and weaker. I'm afraid it won't be long before the white ape Demon King escapes. Muyu stepped on his flying sword and quickly rushed to the top of the mountain. While flying, he was thinking about how to explain things clearly when he met Xiao Shui later. Muyu, do you smell something familiar? Xiao Shui pulled Muyu's clothes and asked. No, my nose isn't as good as yours. Don't tell me you smell something delicious again. Muyu said, it's not food. It's a very familiar smell. I can't describe it, but it's familiar. I feel like I've smelled it somewhere before. Xiao Shui sniffled. What smell? The smell of roasted soybeans. Xiao Shui rubbed his nose. His stomach growled again, and he was a little embarrassed. Muyu was speechless. Before he could say anything to Xiao Shui, another person suddenly appeared. This person came so suddenly that Muyu almost didn't have time to react. The sharp blade almost brushed past Muyu's neck. If Muyu hadn't reacted in time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. He was scared and steadied himself, thinking that it was a demon clan member who had come stop him. But when he saw the person in front of him, his eyes turned cold. In front of him was a man in black. His body emitted a bone-piercing cold air. Muyu was no stranger to this cold air. His whole body was covered with a dense, ghostly aura. He was from the gate of hell. The Demon King has come out. Why are you attacking me? Muyu snorted. The people from the gate of hell were eyeing the white ape Demon King covetously. It was unreasonable for them to stop him instead of looking for the white ape Demon King. The man in black was called Gui Dao. He laughed eerily and said, "The Demon King has come out. That's why the Demon Clan can't go to the mountain." Demon Clan? Are you blind? How do I look like a Demon Clan member? Muyu didn't have a good impression of the people from the Gate of Hell. Gui Dao held a sickle in front of his chest and narrowed his eyes. "If I say you're a Demon Clan member, then you're a Demon Clan member." Muyu remembered that the people from the Gate of Hell had been planning to carry out the so-called Nine Formations possession on the White Ape Demon King. They had collected countless souls for the Nine Formations possession, which was intolerable in the cultivation world. Gui Dao was probably here to prevent people from interfering with the Nine Formations possession. The other disciples from the Gate of Hell should have gone to the top of the mountain. What? Are you going to stop all the elite disciples from going up the mountain for the Nine Formations possession? With just you alone? If it was before, he might have been afraid of the people from the Gate of Hell. But now that everyone was in the nascent soul stage, Muyu had nothing to be afraid of. Gui Dao's face changed slightly. The Nine Formations possession had always been an extremely confidential matter. It had never been spread outside. They had set their sights on the White Ape Demon King and wanted to take him for themselves. If the other sects found out about this, they would definitely be obstructed. They wouldn't let the people from the Gate of Hell deal with the White Ape Demon King alone. If the body and soul of the White Ape Demon King were obtained by the Gate of Hell, the strength of the Gate of Hell would definitely surpass the other sections. The other sects wouldn't let the Gate of Hell monopolize it, so the other sects basically didn't know about the Nine Formations possession. But how did this unknown disciple in front of him know about it? Gui Dao was waiting here to restrain the other sect's disciples so that they could buy time for the others to carry out the Nine Formations possession. As long as he used the excuse of being a Demon Clan member to delay the others going up the mountain, it would be enough. But when Muyu mentioned the Nine Formations possession, Gui Dao was already filled with killing intent. The Demon Clan member deserves to die. Gui Dao's figure flashed, and another shadow rushed out from his body. This shadow was Gui Dao's twin. Fighting against the people from the Gate of Hell required a lot of effort, because you needed to fight against two people at the same time. Muyu had also seen the Gate of Hell's methods. It was very annoying to fight one against one. "You're angry because I exposed your secret." Muyu's shadow clone sword slashed out, and the air rippled with blazing heat. Chapter 247. Blade light and sword shadows intertwined in the air, creating ripples in the air. The rocks on the hillside were sent flying and turned into dust in the blink of an eye. Muyu and Gui Dao's figures clashed fiercely in the air, and then they quickly retreated. Sword chi was awe-inspiring, and saber intent shook the sky. Cyan and black light constantly flickered. None of the people from the Gate of Hell were ordinary people. They had been struggling to survive since they were young. In order to become the surviving twin, they had to do their best to become stronger. They knew that there would be a day when they would have to fight to the death with the person they were training with. Therefore, they could not slack off or harm the other, because the other's cultivation would determine the strength of the twins in the future. This was a gamble of life and death. The winner would be the leader of the twins. Therefore, the people from the Gate of Hell were very resilient, and their cultivation was unfathomable. Gui Dao and his twin each held a sickle. The sickle shone with a cold light. The ghost fog that filled the air drilled towards Muyu like maggots. Ghosts wailed and wolves howled. Countless vengeful spirits pounced from the ghost fog, bringing with them a monstrous amount of resentment. It was like hell on earth. Hiss! Muyu slashed apart a vengeful spirit in front of him. He quickly turned around and dodged the twins' attack. Then he jumped high into the air. The two shadow swords slashed down with endless momentum, dispersing the ghost fog around him. However, the ghost fog that was dispersed quickly gathered again and filled the mountain once more. Hiss! A black light suddenly struck Muyu's chest. Gui Dao's deadly sickle had taken advantage of Muyu's carelessness to attack him. Muyu felt a heavy shock in his chest, and his whole body was suddenly sent flying. So powerful! As expected, I can't underestimate you. Muyu was caught off guard and suffered a loss. He touched his chest and stabilized the spiritual energy in his body. However, Xiao Shuai suddenly became angry and shouted, "Who slashed my, but with a blade?" It poked its head out angrily. Because it had been hiding in Mu Yu's embrace, Gui Dao's scythe of death had also affected it. Even though it was famous for its thick skin, it still couldn't stand someone touching its butt. It immediately swung its big tail at Mu Yu's face and said angrily, "Mu Yu, take this broken sword and take care of this black Japanese." The description of a Japanese with a black aura was really apartment. Mu Yu stared at the ghost fog and recalled his battle with Gui Xianyue in the Moyun mountain range. At that time, although he had fallen into a murderous state, he still had an impression of the twins who had killed Gui Xianyue. The terrifying vitality of Mu Ling's sword was the natural nemesis of the ghost fog. The ghost fog might be powerful, but you found the wrong person. In the past, when he faced the ghost fog, he was so weak and helpless. Gui Xianyue could play with him at will, but now he finally had the strength to fight with the people from the Gate of Hell. He no longer needed the protection of others. His heart was filled with boundless fighting spirit. He would teach the people from the Gate of Hell a lesson, starting with Gui Dao in front of him. A shadow flashed in Mu Yu's hand, and Mu Ling's sword came out. An endless stream of vitality appeared, like the sun shining on spring and flowers blooming. In an instant, the ghost fog melted like ice and snow, constantly retreating. The ghost fog dispersed by Mu Ling could no longer gather, and the flying resentful spirits screamed wildly, avoiding the vigorous sword energy. They were originally ghosts, and they were most afraid of Mu Ling's vitality. After Mu Yu fused with Mu Ling's sword for the first time, he had a kind of mental connection with Mu Ling. As long as he had a thought, Mu Ling would follow his decision. It was also at that time that he suddenly realized that his Mu Ling's sword was the nemesis of the Gate of Hell's cultivation method. Therefore, when he met Gui Dao, he couldn't wait to leave a deep impression on the people from the Gate of Hell. What? Gui Dao was greatly shocked. He felt like he had kicked an iron plate. The resentful spirits in his hand were all suppressed by Mu Yu. He couldn't believe it. With a loud roar, the twins' life-reaping scythes rose with the wind. The light from the scythes reflected the colorful light in the sky, but it was incomparably eerie. You people from the Gate of Hell should restrain yourselves. When Mu Yu thought of the resentful spirits in the ghost fog, he was incomparably angry. These were the souls that had been innocently killed by the people from the Gate of Hell. They had been refined into their killing weapons. Each resentful spirit was a living human life. In order to become stronger, the people from the Gate of Hell didn't care how many people they killed. The people from the Gate of Hell were low-key. They always said to the outside world that they only had the twin souls, but who could care about what they did behind the scenes? The life-reaping scythe became incomparably large. The bone-piercing cold light seemed to announce the end of life. However, its opponent was Mu Ling, the symbol of life in the world. Mu Ling's sword swayed in the wind. The sword's body was riddled with holes. It couldn't withstand a single blow, as if it would break at the slightest touch. No one would place such a broken sword in their eyes. On the contrary, they would think it was laughable. However, it was precisely this inconspicuous broken sword that exuded a vast and boundless vitality. Layer upon layer, it interpreted the true meaning of life and was brimming with vigorous vitality, causing the gloomy black gas to retreat in panic, not daring to approach it. After absorbing Gui Dao's twin, the hole in Mu Ling's sword gradually healed. How is this possible? Gui Dao and the twin's aura were connected. When the twin died, he suffered a strong backlash. His soul became unstable. Mu Yu seized the opportunity and sent him flying with a slap. Gui Dao flew backward. Fresh blood splattered in the air, leaving behind a trail of blood. Mu Yu seized the opportunity and slashed with his sword. Gui Dao's head was raised high with unwillingness before it fell heavily to the ground. Oh, a torrential ghost fog covered the entire area. Gui Dao's soul roared angrily and rushed out of his body. The ghost fog condensed back into his figure. However, it seemed a little illusory. This was his soul. He never thought that he would be defeated so thoroughly. He wouldn't be inferior to any nascent soul realm genius. However, he never thought that he would be defeated by an unknown brat. "Who are you?" Gui Dao asked in shock and anger. Muyu shook his head and said impatiently, "All of you from the gate of hell are like cockroaches. It's so hard to kill you. No wonder no one is willing to care about you. If I kill you, another soul will appear. Why are you so annoying?" Gui Dao never thought that there would be a broken sword named Mu Ling in this world. When had he ever suffered such a loss? However, he couldn't do anything at this moment. His body was destroyed, and his twin was killed. He was only left with a broken soul. He was no match for Muyu. Just you wait. Gui Dao's soul's eyes bulged with hatred. He was ordered to stop the people coming up the mountain. With his cultivation, it was more than enough to deal with any sex disciple. However, he never thought that he would suffer such a loss at the hands of Muyu. His twin was destroyed, and his body was injured. He was already heavily injured. However, a teleportation jade pendant appeared in his hand. Gui Dao didn't have any desire to continue fighting. He wanted to escape from the second layer of heaven. Muyu's eyes lit up. Teleportation jade pendant. Where do you think you're going, you little devil with black gas? In order for this marshal to return to the third layer of heaven to eat roast duck and roast leg, charge. If you get the teleportation jade pendant, I'll give you a piece of meat. Xiao Shui wagged his tail and pointed his paw at the teleportation jade pendant. He shouted righteously like a soldier blowing his horn. He had an extraordinary aura. Muyu couldn't help but laugh. This little fellow was really enthusiastic about food. However, this was also what Muyu was thinking. He had to get the teleportation jade pendant. Mu Ling's sword seemed to have heard Muyu's thoughts. Before Muyu could give it any instructions, it had already merged into the void. There were ripples in the air. When it appeared again, it was above Gui Dao's soul. Gui Dao looked on in shock. His entire soul was being pulled by a hole in Mu Ling's body. He couldn't exert any strength in his hands. "I can't accept this." Gui Dao wanted to crush the teleportation jade pendant in his hand. However, his fingers directly pierced through the jade pendant. His soul power was sucked away by Mu Ling. His body gradually became transparent and smaller. Poochie. There was a sound like a bottle cap being stuffed in. Gui Dao's soul entered the hole in Mu Ling's body. Slowly, the hole in Mu Ling's body healed. Chapter 248. The ghostly fog that covered the sky had already dissipated, and Gui Dao's body lay on the ground, completely devoid of life. The ground was a mess, and there were ravines everywhere, indicating the battle that had just taken place here. The people from the Gate of Hell would never have thought that one of their own would be killed by Muyu just like that. "I suddenly know how to heal the wounds on your body." Muyu put away the jade pendant and stroked Mu Ling's sword that was riddled with holes as he fell into deep thought. Old Tree Leader had once told him that if he wanted to heal Mu Ling, he would need countless lives. Because it involved lives, he had always disliked Mu Ling's sword, but now he understood that some people should become nourishment for Mu Ling's sword. If Yumon was the natural enemy of the human race, then the Gate of Hell was the cancer of the human race. This cancer should be removed. Great. I don't have to worry about not being able to eat roasted drumsticks anymore. Xiao Shui looked at the jade pendant in Muyu's hand with great joy as he laughed foolishly and began to drool. After obtaining the jade pendant, Muyu really wanted to crush it and return to the third layer of heaven. He had already obtained the 9-chi soul cleansing flower and the netherworld grass, so he had no regrets. However, he thought of Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui had the ability to control water, which was closely related to Muyu. Since this place was related to the White Ape Demon King, then Xiao Shui must be nearby. He wanted to explain things to Xiao Shui before leaving. Otherwise, he wouldn't know where to find her after returning to the third layer of heaven. Muyu lightly tapped his feet and left this place, running towards the colorful pillar of light at the top of the mountain. Muyu didn't meet any other people from the Gate of Hell along the way. When he arrived at the top of the mountain, he didn't see any people from the Gate of Hell, nor did he see any disciples from the other sections. This made him suspicious. If the people from the Gate of Hell weren't at the top of the mountain, then what was the point of having Gui Dao block the way? Strange? Where is he? Muyu stopped in his tracks. He saw the colorful pillars of light in the distance, but he didn't have the time to appreciate the beautiful scenery. He was vigilant about his surroundings, in case Gui Xinyue jumped out and attacked him. He slowly approached the multicolored light pillar, but he suddenly realized that the multicolored light pillar wasn't emitted from a single object. Instead, it formed rings. There were countless rings, and each ring had a different color. He took a few more steps forward, but the ground under his feet caught his attention. There were very strange marks on the ground. Each mark was deeply embedded into the ground. They were as wide as a finger, but the depth was unfathomable. It was as if they ran through the entire mountain. These carvings were extremely ancient, and he didn't know what they meant. Muyu flew slightly into the air and looked down from the air. Only then did he realize that these were the carvings of an ancient array. They had the same aura as the transmission array pattern he had seen in the Pill Cauldron sect. Obviously, they had been lost for a long time. Every array pattern is shown from the ground, as if there was some huge treasure below that was about to break through the mountain. The more Muyu walked forward, the more he realized that the array pattern in front of him was slowly dissipating. The huge pillar of light was becoming thinner, as if some energy was gradually weakening. This array had a radius of nearly 1,000 meters, and there were many arrays of different sizes around it. They were all independent but interconnected. At the center of the array was the huge pillar of light. He could vaguely see a blurry shadow in the pillar of light, but he didn't know what it was. Once one of the array's pillars of light disappeared, the entire mountain would tremble. Muyu came to the edge of the pillar of light, which was surrounded by a treasure light and auspicious aura. It seemed to be a protective barrier. So many years of experience told Muyu that the more gorgeous something looked, the more dangerous it was. Muyu wouldn't stupidly touch it with his hand. He picked up a stone and threw it at the barrier, wanting to test the waters. Pa! Muyu imagined the scene of the stone being shattered, and he couldn't help but add in the sound. However, the stone easily passed through the pillar of light and fell to the ground. Nothing happened, and the stone wasn't shattered. Am I overthinking things? Muyu blinked his eyes and carefully stretched out his hand to touch the pillar of light. Nothing happened. He jumped a step and passed through it. He really was overthinking things. He stepped into the pillar of light, and then he realized that this was only the first circle of the pillar of light. There was another circle inside. He passed through the second circle and realized that there was still another circle. The mountaintop was almost surrounded by circles of pillars of light, and the colorful light surrounded Muyu's body, rendering him with a different style. He didn't know how many circles of pillars of light Muyu had passed through. Gradually, he realized that the light behind him seemed to be getting brighter and brighter. He turned around and didn't know when, but the pillars of light behind him had slowly disappeared. When he turned back, the pillars of light in front of him had also gradually disappeared. He looked at the ground, and the pillars of light that filled the sky were slowly shrinking back along the bottomless carvings. After walking forward for a while, he saw the person at the center of the pillar of light. It was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man. His upper body was naked, and his explosive muscles bulged like a vajra. His hair was snow-white, and his arrogant and unruly long hair fluttered behind him. His white eyebrows were slanted upward and connected with his hair. His huge eyes were majestic, and his pupils were yellow like the resplendent stars. It made people not dare to look at him directly. Beside the middle-aged man stood a familiar figure. A blue ribbon was wrapped around her waist, and she looked like a fairy from the 9 heavens. She was agile and elegant. It was Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui, I knew you would be here. Muyu heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Xiao Shui. He was worried that Xiao Shui would fight with the people from the Gate of Hell. Looking around, Yang Kai couldn't help feeling a little puzzled. On the way here, he had already encountered the disciples from the Gate of Hell and the monster race. But here at the top of the mountain, there was only Xiao Shui. Why? The blue ribbon around Xiao Shui's waist fluttered. Needless to say, this blue ribbon was the same as the broken sword on Muyu's body. It was Water Yumon's sacred artifact, the Water Spirit. The Water Spirit stood in front of Xiao Shui and looked at Muyu vigilantly. Don't even think about approaching the Monster King. Damn, it really is Little Monkey. Little Shui cursed. Back in the underground palace, he had called the phantom formed by White Ape Monster King's monster core Little Monkey. However, the powerful middle-aged man in front of him was obviously not Little Monkey, but the real deal, White Ape Monster King. White Ape Monster King's gaze also fell on Muyu and Little Shui. Even though he was trapped in the spirit array, the aura he exuded was quite amazing. The surrounding light pillars had no effect on Muyu and Xiao Shui, but it was different for White Ape Monster King. They were waiting for the light pillars to disappear. Only when all the light pillars disappeared would White Ape Monster King truly break free from the seal. Muyu felt that the situation was very strange. The disciples from the Gate of Hell appearing here meant that Gue, Xinyue, and the others must be nearby. But why hadn't they shown up yet? Were they hiding in some corner, waiting for White Ape Monster King to break free from the seal, so they could immediately use the 9 spirit arrays? Boy, are you the one from the Gate of Hell that Shuer mentioned? You're still not strong enough to deal with me alone. White Ape Monster King's voice was like a large bell, masculine and overbearing. He coldly stared at Muyu, his eyes full of ridicule and disdain. I don't know if I'm weak or not, but it doesn't make any difference to me whether you come out or not. Xiao Shui, can I have a few words with you alone? Muyu directly ignored White Ape Monster King, and his gaze fell on Xiao Shui. Arrogant boy, how dare you talk to this king like that? White Ape Monster King was furious that Muyu looked down on him. However, Muyu was indifferent and still looked at Xiao Shui. Do you want to take back the Monster King's core from me? That's impossible. I won't let you ruin my plan. Xiao Shui looked at Muyu with a complicated expression. At that time, in the underground palace, Muyu had helped her a lot. It could be said that without Muyu, she wouldn't have been able to obtain White Ape Monster King's core so easily. However, from the standpoint of rescuing the Monster King, if Muyu wanted to stop her, she wouldn't be lenient. I said that the Monster King has nothing to do with me. I need to talk to you. Muyu didn't want to think about the consequences of the Monster King's appearance in the cultivation world. He had countless things to deal with, so why should he get involved in the Monster King's matter? To him, Xiao Shui, who had the power of Water Yumon, was the one he cared about. I have nothing to talk about with you humans. Xiao Shui said. Muyu frowned. You are also a human and a part of the human race. You also, he didn't continue. He wanted to say that it was related to Yu Ming, but White Ape Monster King was here, so he couldn't say it out loud. Xiao Shui slowly shook her head. I grew up in the monster race. I'm a part of the monster race. You should leave quickly. I don't want to be your enemy. Muyu sighed. He didn't have any ill intentions toward Xiao Shui. He just wanted to tell her that he could control Wood. However, Xiao Shui didn't trust him, so he didn't know how to explain it. The pillar of light gradually dimmed, and White Ape Monster King's expression became more and more fanatical. Anyone who was trapped in this godforsaken place for thousands of years would go crazy from loneliness. He gently patted the barrier in front of him, already thinking about how he would take revenge on the human race after he got out. Brat, the first thing I will do after I get out is to kill all of you evil humans. White Ape Monster King said fiercely. Monster King, Grandpa Dragon, said that you can't fuse with your inner core in the second heaven, Xiao Shui said. This brat is targeting me. Am I supposed to let him do whatever he wants to me? White Ape Monster King clenched his fists. You're so annoying. I already said that we didn't come here to look for you. Why are you so narcissistic? Little Shui scolded loudly, forgetting that he was more narcissistic than anyone else. Little Shui didn't care who the other party was. No matter how powerful the Monster King was, he was still an ape without claws. I'm so angry. Even a little rat dares to look down on me. I'ma swallow him. White Ape Monster King beat his strong chest and gnashed his teeth. Damn it, you're the rat. Your whole family are rats. You old macaque, I want to fight you. Xiao Shui stood on Mu Yu's shoulder on its hind legs, and its front two little paws were placed on its waist in a dignified manner. Mu Yu looked around again, but he still didn't see Gue, Xianyue, and the others. This made him even more puzzled. If he hadn't met Gue Dao halfway up the mountain, he would have thought that the people from the Gate of Hell had gotten lost. White Ape Monster King. Is this really the Monster King's sealed place? Zuofengjian's voice came from behind. Mu Yu turned around and saw that it wasn't just Zuofengjian. Xing Gao and the two fairies from the Jade Sect had also come. There were also 7 or 8 Monster Clan members with them. Xiao Shui, be careful of the people from the Gate of Hell. Mu Yu retreated and landed beside Xing Gao and the others. With these people here, he couldn't do anything else. The 7 or 8 Monster Clan members also landed beside Xiao Shui, protecting the Monster King behind them. You're pretty fast. Zuofengjian mocked when he saw Mu Yu. Fast my ass. Don't you know we're opening a path for you? Little Shui snorted. Mu Yu saw that there were fewer Monster Clan members than before. Zuofengjian and the others must have killed a few. However, Zuofengjian also had some deep wounds on his body. Xing Gao's left arm was dripping with blood. Fairy Ming Xian and Ro Anna's faces were also pale. Have you seen the people from the Gate of Hell? Mu Yu was still searching for the people from the Gate of Hell. He felt that it was too strange that the Gate of Hell hadn't appeared here. The Gate of Hell? No, but we were attacked by an unknown force when we were fighting. A few Monster Clan members even died. Xing Gao used a cloth to bandage his wounds. At the same time, he circulated his spiritual energy to heal his wounds. What do you mean by an unknown force? Mu Yu frowned. Because the people in the dark didn't just attack us, they also attacked the Monster Clan members. The Monster Clan members suffered heavy casualties. You were lucky, you ran faster. Ro Anna snorted. Who would attack us and a Monster Clan at the same time? Fairy Ming Xian asked. Even though she was heavily injured, it didn't change her elegant temperament. Only Yaman doesn't like humans and Monster Clan members. Xing Gao said. The feathers of the three-eyed eagle on his shoulder were a bit messy, and it looked a bit dispirited. It seemed that it had suffered heavy injuries just now. When the three-eyed eagle saw the Monster King, it trembled from the bottom of its heart, causing it to cry out twice. If it hadn't been well trained, it would have run away. Everyone thought of Yaman. Only Mu Yu thought of the Gate of Hell. If the Gate of Hell wanted to secretly capture the White Ape Monster King, then attacking the Monster Clan members and the disciples of the other sects at the same time was the best choice. As long as they suffered heavy losses at the same time, the people from the Gate of Hell would have an easier time moving. That white-furred guy is the White Ape Monster King, right? Zuofengjian stared at the middle-aged man in the circle of light. The Monster King escaping didn't matter to Mu Yu, but it was different for people like them who flaunted themselves as righteous sections. The Monster Clan and the Human Clan had countless disputes. Although they didn't have as much influence as Yaman, they still couldn't be underestimated. The Monster Clan had always lived in seclusion in the third heaven. If a Monster King returned, they would probably come out and cause trouble for the Human Clan. We're all injured now, but there's still a lot of Monster Clan members. We have to think of a way to stop them. Xing Gao's wounds still didn't stop bleeding. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.